As the leader of the Booner Pack, I lead from the front.
All right, boys. Lock in.
It's our core foundation, man. Grit.
I'm fired up. I'm fired the fuck up, boys.
It's pumping right now. It's got my juices pumping, boys.
Welcome. It is lunchtime sports with the fellas. Jeff, Booner, Lukas, Gentry, and we are back. All right, not only am I rocking this very, very nice hat.
Great hat. There's bigger news.
I've chosen Pistons University.
Hey,
Jeff,
like Christmas
Jeff.
morning for you. Santa just
You
came,
did not.
stockings are full, and you get a
Oh, yeah, Boone.
you get a
Hey,
28-win season.
Let Booner, I'm going to the University of the Detroit Pistons.
Yeah.
What a bat. Hey, my hat's like a cheap one, though. I couldn't find my good one. I
Hey,
might have thrown my good one out. Last year when they went on that losing streak. I might have left it somewhere and broke it.
Oh, oh no.
Never.
All right, that was
That
disrespect. There was no reason for that at the end of the day.
Yeah,
That was a little disrespectful.
That was wild.
Hey,
That was
it's
wild.
a comedic fun. Let's all relax, okay?
That was a little disrespectful.
Calm down, everyone. Calm down, everyone. Relax, relax. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
I want to say this, fellas. Okay, we all know the obvious. Big show today. Okay, Pistons are live. They're playing. They're in a battle right now with the Pacers.
The backwards hat?
Wednesday, we have John Maakaron on the dock. Like, there's some stuff happening. Okay, but you know what the biggest thing that transpired today was?
What's that, Jeff Iafrate?
We're back, boys. We're back. All right. YouTube has officially let us back into the clubhouse. Now we're at the table. We are at the table once again. We are monetized. Memberships are back. Super chats are back. Everything that we're used to having is back, and it is a great feeling. You can see whoever is a member. I'm not sure if it like makes people that were members again, or you have to re-sign up. I'm not sure how it works.
I'm assuming it canceled their they weren't paying for
Probably.
it, so they probably got to re-up it.
Yeah,
So-
you're gonna have to go in. I'm doing it. I'm trying to do it right now on mine. You have to go back in and pay. Just go through the whole thing again. But hey, we're back, boys. We're back in business, huh? I'm pumped to see all these. Yeah, look at it. We're gonna start seeing new members flow in. Hey,
There you
become a
go,
member of
Steve.
the show. Here we go. We're gonna see new members. It's like we just started off again. It's like we're at day one.
Yeah, this is
Membership.
it's good feeling. Very good feeling. What'd you say, Klotzy? What'd you sneak in?
I said membership. Get it?
Got
You
to.
get the emotes back, Boone.
The Booner Pack
emote.
emotes, they are back.
The
They're
stickers.
perfect timing for the Lions to go get a couple. Hey, it's perfect timing. We already have a lot of members. I'm pumped up. This is awesome. This is thrilling.
It is such a great feeling. I mean, the last 3 months, it's been tough because it just feels like we've had the communities that stuck by us and that have been, just hanging. It's been great. The support's been amazing, but it's just awesome. Oh, and then we have Steve gifted Crunch Time memberships. It's gonna be nice to see those members in the chat, man, and see the logos and see the emotes and stuff like that. So I can't wait for it. A lot of stuff to get to today, fellas. All right, you got the like I said, the Pistons are playing. Dan Campbell, commented on Jameson Williams.
Whoa!
Oh, Booner just became a member. I mean, shout out to Booner. So we got a lot to get to, fellas. And Dan had a quote today on Jameson Williams. I want to play that, get his reaction. We'll get Mike's thoughts. We didn't get to get Mike's thoughts yesterday with the whole JMO suspension happening. And it's not official yet because he's at this point, he's either going to appeal or accept it. I think that's like what the verbiage, Booner. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. Is that basically?
I mean, he's appealing it. I think when that comes out and the NFL kind of gives that to you, you have a period of time where you're able to put in for an appeal. Whether you think they might have wronged it, maybe there was paperwork that didn't go through, or whatever it is. If you think maybe you're able to win that appeal, I think right now what's happening, I think it's a 5-day period that JMO has. So essentially, like he might be able to wait to appeal through the Tennessee game is my guess. Like if you count the days, what did this come out Monday or Tuesday? 5 days is probably Friday, Saturday if appeal goes through. I don't know how long that would take. But I think what Jameson Williams is doing is like he's considering like, would I win the appeal? And I think that's where like for the situation at hand. Like the longer you wait, like say he doesn't win the appeal and he waits until, you know, the 5th day to do it, and he puts the appeal in and he plays in Tennessee. Now he's out, and say he loses the appeal. Now he's out versus the Packers and the Texans. So there's like there's a risk reward type of deal to it. Like if he doesn't think he's going to win the appeal, you probably should just right away just be like, I'll sit out Tennessee and Green Bay instead of taking the Packers Texans. You see what I'm saying? So like,
yeah,
there's that 5-day stretch though to where he has a few more days to kind of consider that. I don't know, guys. Like I know a lot of people, and it is what it is in the industry we're in. There's a lot of people where if you say like, hey, you have to just be a pro and figure this out. There's a lot of people who will be like, oh, you're going at him, like you're being unfair. It's not his fault. Like it's his fault at the end of the day, because you have to know what you're putting in your body. Like that's what it comes down to. And he would probably want to be one of the first ones to admit that. Dan, it's the same thing with Dan. We're gonna watch a video in a second of Dan at the press conference being like, hey, you have to deal with you have consequences if you don't take care of situations like this. So like this isn't a thing that's like, oh, why is everyone going at J-Mo? Like that's not that. That's the last thing. It's just he made a mistake where he might have just not put paperwork in it. It's as simple as that. He might have got a prescription and just didn't file the right paperwork, or they didn't go about it the right process. And now you're in this kind of situation now, which sucks, but it is what it is at this point, you know?
Yeah, it's like I said before, you know, it's something that you kind of got away from more. Oh, but here's Dan Campbell. He finally got a chance to kind of respond to it today. So let's hear from Dan Campbell and what he had to say regarding Jameson Williams suspension. Here it is. Let's keep everyone on screen here. We're not risking that fucking thing. But hold on, let me get this out the way. All right, here's Dan Campbell.
Hey, keep us on screen because we have...
There's a number of things. Here's what I can tell you is I trust this kid. I trust him. And unfortunately, you got to pay for your sins, you know, and something happens. And if this comes down, so be it. But I know this, you know, we dangled a rope down on the way up. We can't wait for anybody. And, you know, over a year ago, he started climbing his way up and he got to us, and maybe he lost his grip, but he'll climb back up again. That rope's still there. It's tied to us and he'll be just fine. But he's part of this team and I trust him.
I mean, there you go. MCDC. All right. And someone pointed this out. I don't know how much weight it holds, but Dan Campbell said, I like this kid, or I trust this kid. And then he would call, you know, Penei Sewell a man. I don't know. Is that maybe I'm looking too much?
I think that's looking too much into. I think that depends on the day. And like I've called guys kids, and people be like, Booner, don't call them kids, and I've called other guys men or guys.
I don't think Dan does that stuff intentionally. It's why fair. Okay, I'll just erase that. Forget I said that. To Dan's thing, I think there is a sense of a little bit of disappointment in Dan Campbell, but at the end of the day, the thing I do love about Dan is he does empower and does a very good job of motivating his players. Like he says all the right things and just knows when to say them. Like everything he just said right there, the guy could be a motivational speaker. All right, he just said everything correct. You know, hey, J-Mo, he's clawing. What do you use? The rope? Hey, there's rope still attached to us. He's clawing back up the rope. Like, said all the greatest things, Dan Campbell. But there is a sense, I think, of Dan where it's like, damn it, you know, you're a big part of this team, and it stinks that you got suspended. But I will say that Dan Campbell, the way he's I know I'm in front of the media, he's going to say a thing. I'm just curious. I'm curious what his perception of Jameson Williams really is right now. Like, I wonder what he actually thinks. You know,
I got a sense from that though. I don't know if anyone else did. And Gentry, like I would like a sense from the conversation that Dan had today that Dan trusts. Like, yeah, he said he trusts him, and you can maybe be like, oh, you're just saying that in the media. Like, no, it like genuine. It looked like if you watch the full interview or the full press conference, Dan, you could tell he's a little like he obviously can't say a lot, but you could tell a little bit. He's like, man, like he cares so much about J-Mo, and J-Mo's come such a long way. And it's like something like this. It's like you hate that for anyone that's taken so many steps forward. That's why I do like, I really, guys, what I hate about this whole situation, like fully and like truly hate, is I hate the people and in the comments of people trying to be like, you know, you say something like, hey, yeah, he messed up, but he's going to figure it out. And then people go at you and will say, oh, so you hate JMO. You're always going at this. Like, no, dude. Like, go watch this press conference fully with Dan. Like, Dan's like you have to pay for like your sins. Like when you say that, guess what that means? That means something there was a slip up on JMO's end. And then when Dan says, hey, he was climbing the rope up with us and then he slipped, like, guess what? That's your leader of your football team, Dan Campbell, saying that there was a slip up. Like, that's not like us like being like, oh, maybe he's just beating around the no, like he came out today and said there was a slip up on JMO's end. Something was slipped up. Whether he's able to end up getting the suspension removed, which would be awesome and great on JMO's end, or not. Like, Dan's like, there was a slip up. Like, he was climbing up the rope, he slipped, and he's going to climb back up when he's back, or if the appeal goes through. But I hate the most, like the people obviously hate it if we say something a little bit negative about JMO, and it's not even negative. It's just like, you just got to be a pro. Like, you can't have these slip ups. Like, it's as simple as that. And then the people who are like, why are you going at, like, that's what I hate. Because Dan literally today essentially admitted that, hey, there might have been a slip up. Like, he slipped and he's going to climb back from it. Like, when Dan Campbell says that.
So Dan Campbell didn't say it's the NFL's fault, basically, is what you're saying.
No, he said you have to pay for your sins, and he slipped and he's going to have to climb his way back up. So obviously there was something on JMO's end, whether it was, again, it could have been simple as just paperwork turn in. Like, that, literally, it could have been that. Like, it could have been the simplest thing in the world, but it's about like when I'm in college, dude, if I do a homework assignment and don't turn it in, I go to my professor and be like, I did it. Well, did you turn it in? No. Oh, well, I can't give you an A for it. Like, it could be that, dude. It's that simple. I want to know what Unc like Gentry, I don't want to know if you listen to it, kind of your thoughts, because you've been in those press conference rooms before.
That's your guy, Mike. That's your guy.
Yeah. I mean, I like judging off of that, I think like Dan Campbell had like that I'm not mad, like I just like disappointed voice, and kind of like you, Boone. He's seen, like you said, Boone, he's seen how far JMO has come, and to like see something like this, the minor setback, even though it is only 2 games, I'm not overreacting too much. As long as JMO goes out there and shows some accountability. And like you said, Boone, we kind of don't even know the actual ruling on it, if he does appeal or whatnot, but just show some accountability in this, JMO, and you kind of grow from it. You don't want to be put in these situations, obviously. And these situations that he's getting himself into, missing games and whatnot, is only going to affect his run with this team and how long he will be with this team and his extension and whatnot. So in the end, in the long run, this is only hurting JMO. It's not too big. Like I said, it's only 2 games. Like, I'm not going to overreact too much from it, but it is definitely disappointing seeing how far he's come, like his growth as a player and as a person. So it's not the end of the world, though.
I want to get your guys' thoughts on this. It's something that I thought about today, and I've been seeing Pride of Detroit put out an article about it. By the way, we all agree. JMO, he'll be fine. He's going to overcome this and be better. Just please, no more suspensions, JMO. All right, let's just no more. Yeah. Let's lock in. You're a hell of a player. We want you on the field. What player do you think, and this could go different ways, what player do you think on offense benefits the most with JMO being out? What player do you think benefits the most with JMO being out? Because you can go a lot of different angles with this.
I mean, for me personally, I think it's Jahmyr Gibbs, because Jahmyr Gibbs is the guy that, with Jameson Williams out, you're not going to go completely run dependent, but you're going to lean on the run a little bit more. And if they're making a play where it's all right, we need to break a big play here. Couldn't speak there. It's going to be Jahmyr Gibbs. Now, that doesn't mean that Amon-Ra, Sam Laporta, all these other wide receivers, especially like Khalif Raymond's going to be seeing the field a lot more. Tim Patrick's going to be seeing a lot more. But the volume on the plays that you try to produce, I think we could see a lot more packages where David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs are on the field at the same time. And it's a screen to Jahmyr Gibbs. It's an end around to Jahmyr Gibbs. I do think that Ben obviously has those wrinkles there. But when you're talking about now, maybe not in Tennessee, but in Green Bay, you're going to get Jahmyr Gibbs and your big playmakers the ball a lot more than you can compared to a Khalif Raymond, who will still get the ball. But I think with Jahmyr Gibbs, especially in the receiving game, it'll be there.
Jahmyr Gibbs, I don't hate it. But I'll say this. I think a player, what if I might take a different angle on this. You know who I think will benefit?
Wave the flag.
I have someone, and if you say him, I'm gonna mute you. If you say him, I'm gonna mute you.
Well, what if I was thinking I was gonna go one way, but I won't. I'm gonna be serious here for a second. I see people in the chat saying Allen Robinson. I was gonna say Allen Robinson.
That's what I was gonna say. No. I was gonna go Allen Robinson.
Hold on. Okay, I'll let you cook then. Holy shit.
Oh, we're back.
Whoa, hold on.
That's hot.
Forget
Hold
everything.
it.
Hey, you know what? Forget everything I was about to say here. Coach Walk just dropped
Coach
an
Walk.
I mean, man just donated $100.
That's one thing that's back is the donations and Coach Walk, baby. What a legend.
Coach Walk just blessing the
What
fucking. Hey, Coach, we love you, Coach.
We do.
Hey, hold on. I got to get this right for Coach here. Coach Walk said, "Welcome back, boys." I said I never super chat again because YouTube is done by doing that to you, and I hate that they take 25%. Coach Walk, I am with you, man. YouTube can be a pain in the ass sometimes, but you know what? We're happy that you stuck by us since the very beginning, and
Coach
everyone
Walk's
in
a
the chat
legend.
sticking by us, even through the demonetization. We are back, and we are so back, and we appreciate you, Coach, so much, man. Shout out to Coach Walk.
Hey, Coach Walk. Me and Coach Walk have our battles. I still love Coach Walk. Coach Walk, you know, it's like a sibling. Like, let's go. I'm gonna go at it. He knows how to get me riled up a little bit. Like,
you're like that annoying nephew. You know what I mean? He's just you're gonna piss him off. He's gonna go back at you a little bit. You guys argue. That's fair.
For sure.
All right.
Hey, he's a legend. Though.
That's
I will say, okay, the player that I think will benefit the most, guys, is Sam Laporta. I think Sam Laporta. This is a guy that Jared Goff already has a rapport with. This is a guy that last year was the second most productive player in the passing game. This is a guy that, yes, he is a little banged up, but over the last couple of weeks, he has looked better. I know last game, he
got more banged up at the end of the last game.
But the two prior games, he was starting to kind of get into that rhythm of 50, 60 yards a game. I get he's hurt, but I think especially this week, you got the Titans trading for Jerome Baker at linebacker. They're going to have a hard time trying to cover him. They have a good secondary, but I think Sam Laporta could easily be an X factor this week. And I think moving forward over the next two games, especially in that divisional game against the Packers, I mean, you got to go to someone you trust and someone that can absolutely take advantage of the middle of the field. And I think it's Sam Laporta. That's Sammy Lagoda, as Lukas Klotz would call him. And I think he's going to come in big. He's going to come up big time in the next two games.
Hey, I'll go this. I'll stick with what the chat said. Because listen, everyone's job's going to be different when a guy like J-Mo goes down. It's the same thing when Amon-Ra goes down, or Laporta's down, or Gibbs is down. Like, all of your jobs increase because you're missing a big player on that offense. And I think things that J-Mo brings, like, obviously deep threat. Guess what? He's an elite blocker. He's great at blocking. He can make plays. He's a decoy. All of the above. I think obviously like the role of Tim Patrick's going to move up a little bit. Like Khalif Raymond's going to get a little bit more. One guy though, again, that the chat mentioned and Dan Campbell today brought up was Allen Robinson getting an increased role because of J-Mo being out. And he said Allen Robinson today was in the building and he's a pro's pro. Like, that man was prepared. He's out there already getting work in. He knows what he needs to do. And he's just a professional. Like, it's next man up mentality. Like, he's a vet in this league. I'm sure Allen Robinson reminds me of a Klotzy guy. Like, in his career at his best, like, he's an absolute dog. And I don't think he's lost that dog in him. I think he's just maybe gotten a little older, maybe lost a step. And he hasn't had the opportunity. I think you do see guys, it might be like, I'm not saying he goes out there and like Allen Robinson 6 catches, 120 yards. That's not it. But it's all right. Who's going to be blocking in place of J-Mo? Like, Tim Patrick can block, but I think you're going to still need a guy to step into. Like, Tim has the thing is, guys, Tim Patrick has his own role in this offense now. Like, you could be like, well, he's going to take J-Mo's. He has his own role. He is a part and he is in this scheme now. So it's like, all right, who's going to take the J-Mo role? Allen Robinson, welcome to the team. He's going to be ready to go Sunday. Luckily, it's not versus a crazy football team. It's still a Titans team that's decent. So, not decent, but like they can give you on defensively, they're decent. So you're going to need a vet player to step in. Allen Robinson can step in and he's going to be able to block at an elite level. He's going to be able to run routes at an elite level. He's going to know the offense because he's a vet. He's been there now the last couple months. I think Allen Robinson, I'm expecting a catch or two out of this man, and I'm expecting to see him lead blocking at some plays, just like J-Mo was a little bit. Hey, AR, baby. I don't know what number he wears, but AR, baby.
AR8.
AR8, baby. Let's go, Allen Robinson.
AR8. Boone, kind of to the chat's point, like, and it wasn't a lot, but we've seen Allen Robinson, especially last week, like, he's been out there. So it's not like they're scared to throw him out there. And to your point, he's not going to have 4 catches for 60 yards and a touchdown. But on 3rd and 3, when, they're thinking about, no J-Mo, we got to worry about Tim Patrick, Amon-Ra St. Brown, all these other guys, throwing Allen Robinson the ball is not a bad a bad solution to have. So I think he, like you said, not going to go off, but he's going to have a little bit more of a role. So I agree with it.
I was going to say, along with Jeff, I was going to say more of the reemergence of Sam Laporta. Even though he is a little bit banged up, I expect him to see more targets. But then Tim Patrick as well. You've seen him come up multiple times. He's come up big multiple times within the last 3 games. He's recorded 25 yards in the last 3 games as well, with 2 catches in all of those. So you've seen his connection with Goff kind of ramp up over the past few weeks. I could see him easily getting a few more targets, a few more catches in J-Mo's absence. But I still do look for Sam Laporta to kind of get back to his old ways and be a more bigger piece of the offense.
Honestly, boys, I don't even hate if you throw a little bone to Tim Patrick. I don't even hate that.
I think that's like by default, though. Like by default, like he's now the wide receiver too by de facto. And
maybe a little Leaf. Maybe a little Leaf.
Oh, Leaf for sure. Those
Leaf's
are guys
gonna have a good game.
I think naturally, but I think like you guys said with Allen Robinson and Sam Laporta, I'm kind of like, just because of the way that he's playing right now. I'm not even trying to be funny, at least for next week. I wouldn't be surprised if a guy like Brock Wright has a couple of catches and has like not a huge game, but like 4 to 5 catches, 40 yards. Like Brock's showing that from time to time. He can lose. Brock Wright can get loose. I wouldn't be surprised there, but I just think when you look at like the Jahmyr Gibbs, like the big play factors, what I think they'll be missing from J-Mo, and that's how they'll try to replicate it the most. I do think too, like how we saw in training camp, they're repping a lot of J-Mo and Jahmyr. They've done it from time to time, but especially against the Packers, like you want your best 11 guys out there. And I think with J-Mo, you're obviously missing one of them. You put D-Mon in the backfield and Jahmyr in the slot.
Yeah, I didn't even think that. Maybe Jahmyr does get lined up out wide a little bit more. He was lined up in every single position in training camp. He did literally everything besides quarterback and offensive line.
In last week, 4 for 40. I mean, he's showing some of that receiving ability that was advertised. I see people, and by the way, Dan mentioned him today, Isaiah Williams. Yeah. He's someone that I think, in my opinion, would get the nod before Allen Robinson, even though, unless you want to argue, well, he fits that outside guy, which is fair. But I think in terms of like trusting someone, I think they trust Isaiah just because they've seen a bigger sample size of him in Detroit, to where I would not be shocked if you see some Isaiah Williams and he's making some plays this week. Like I like that. You haven't seen him all year.
So, all right, I do like that, Jeff. I just think it's like, Jeff, there's that thing to where you're like, I think you can see some production on it, dude. Like you're not gonna like Allen Robinson or Isaiah. You're not expecting production out of whoever steps in at this. Like you get production more from Amon-Ra and Sam and Gibbs and Leaf and like those are the guys who you're gonna get more production from. It's like Isaiah. You need someone to step in and block, someone to step in and make plays, not mess up, to have 1 or 2 catches in these big time moments. That's what it is. Like I don't think you're gonna see like Jeff. You're gonna see some production. He'll step in. What do you want? Whoever steps in to go off for 100 yards.
Cooks in the kitchen.
No, I didn't mean it like that. I meant you'll potentially see him out there. Like I didn't mean like big game Isaiah Williams. I didn't.
That's when it came up. That's
my bad. That's my bad.
We're not even in the studio, and I made eye contact with Klotz somehow. I'm like, wait a second.
Well,
man, anyway, all pro Isaiah Williams. Is that what we're talking about?
I
don't know. That's what it sounded like when he said it.
I was like, all right, now we're reaching a little bit. Is the trust factor with Allen Robinson, for the plain fact they put Allen Robinson out there.
He's been playing already. Yeah, he's been on the roster.
I agree with you 100%. Like, there's a very good chance we see Isaiah Williams over the next 2 weeks.
That's all I was saying.
I get what you're saying.
Hey, maybe we see an Isaiah Williams touchdown, huh? How about that?
You fellas know we've all liked him.
Hold on.
He's good.
Okay,
hold
on. Yeah. Hey, okay. Hold on. Sheen Coffin.
Shout out. Drop the hashtag
Kool-Aid to drink today.
At the end.
Love that.
The people showing love. He says, welcome back, boys. Watch your show every night, and it's pure entertainment every time. Keep up the grind. It's crunch time. Oh, that's a kind of a bar. But hey, Sheen Coffin, we love you.
Are you not going to read the whole thing, Jeff? You're just going to stop there?
Hashtag Booner Path.
Okay, thank you.
I'll throw that out there.
Thank you.
But we love you, man. Appreciate it so much.
I heard. Shout out Sheen Coffin, Booner Path, man. Part of the Booner Path Army. What a legend.
Are you guys ever out in public and you like hear like somebody like say the phrase, or like it'd be like in a song or something? You hear like crunch time. Just like we got to find a way to get it like trademarked or something. They can't just be on free will.
I was listening to 50 Cent the other day, and he said something, and I forget what song it was, but he said something crunch time, and I was like, it's like free advertisement. You know what I mean? Like 50 Cent.
50 Cent's advertising. Don't tell us that we can't market.
You know? What?
Sorry.
What just wanted to hear himself be heard.
I was thinking. Shout out. The Pistons. I saw the Pistons over here, and I was just. I earlier today. The Booner path. There was a path for the Pistons. I heard it. Chris made a crisp path to the
Platy
Pistons.
path.
The Platy path to winning 20 games. That's what it was. The Platy path to winning 20. It wasn't 20 games. It was to go to the playoffs.
Yeah. Well,
hey, what's the phrase, Jeff Iafrate?
For what?
That you always tell me.
Oh, word on the street. Word on the street says that Chris knows more about the Pistons and likes the Pistons more than Jeff.
Whoa!
Imitation. Stop it. Imitation is a form of flattery. All right, that's how I look at that. So Platy,
I've locked in anytime the path, whether it's like the Pistons or it could just be like, hey, let's go on a walk on this path. Everyone in the city of Detroit just instantly thinks the Booner path. So if they think the Platy path or this path, instantly it goes back to the Booner path.
There was an individual by the name of Ezith who suggested the Iafrate Interstate. I shut it down. Okay, I shut it down.
Say the saying again. We should get that on a T-shirt. What is it?
It's like, imitation is a form of flattery. All right, that's what that is.
Just got a picture of Booner. Another show with Booner's face on.
Oh yeah, that's Don't worry. Hey, it's only one path. Especially here.
I love it, man. I love
Chris too. Speaking of this Titans game, fellas, Lions are 11.5-point favorites. Do you remember the last time the Lions were that big of a favorite?
Last year. Thanksgiving against the Eagles. I wonder. You're not going to know, but like I'm trying to think of the last time where like the Lions are going to absolutely kill someone.
Well, last year I think they were a double-digit favorite. Let me go look at the schedule last year real quick.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Because they definitely were. It might have been versus. Oh, who was it? Hold on, Jeff. I want to answer this. All
right.
Oh, it was last year versus the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, that's the last time the Lions have been like this.
I'm good.
Yeah.
You looked it up.
No, I did. I was just pulling up the schedule, and then I remembered they played the Panthers, and I was like, boom. I'll share my screen with you boys if you want me to. I'll share my screen. No, I'm just kidding.
Bro's clearing tabs as we speak.
So, I will.
There it is. That's what I looked up. I saw the Panthers. Oh, the Panthers instantly.
So let me fix this. So the technically 11.5, I think is like highest ever, but the closest was the Panthers. I'm pretty sure. I think that's how it is. Because 11.5, dude. Remember we do these pick'ems every Friday, and yeah, we do the spread. We do, and we have to pick the spread to make sure I clarify that. We never run into these 11.5-point spreads. No. Like it's always what was the one we had the other week? It was like the Bills, and it was like 8.5 maybe over. It was something like that. 11.5 is aggressive, and Andrew Jones monster spread. There. Speaking of a path, is there any path at all that the Titans even stand a chance, like at all? They just and they traded away DeAndre Hopkins. I don't know. They don't. Will Levis is injured. Maybe it could help them, honestly, based on how he's playing.
It would. Will Levis
might be a little better. I don't know at this point.
Mason Rudolph is
all right.
What do you guys think of the 11.5-point favorite matchup here? How much? A lot of pressure. Not pressure on the Lions just to go out there and just do what you're supposed to do, which is whoop that ass. That is basically what they're supposed to do on Sunday. Whoop that.
There has been this season so far 2 games all year that have been double digit favorites. Both of those games. I apologize, not both of them. It was New England at San Francisco and the Carolina Panthers at Washington. Both 10.5.
I'm sorry, Booner. I can't.
Gotta cut you off.
Oh, Mike Green.
I just can't continue when. I mean,
and Mike Green's a legend too. We met him in Auburn
Hills. Yeah.
He stopped by.
Absolute fucking
Shout out
legend.
Mike. Yeah.
Wearing an Ennis Rakestraw
Shout out.
jersey, like an absolute legend. And we got, oh my God, the love we've gotten today is amazing. Mike Reed, we are fucking back, fellas. Let's fucking go. Let's go, all Detroit sports teams. #Booner Path. See, I read it
There
that
we
time.
go.
Let's fucking go.
Shout out Mike Reed, man.
Mike Reed, you're an absolute just animal. We appreciate you.
One of the leaders of the Booner Path, Mike Reed.
Yeah, so he's got a spot. I mean, I saw him still the janitor, but Mike Reed, he's up there.
Hey, I've got. Well, listen, you're a part of the corporate office. I've got the army, the Booner Path Army, out there on the streets.
He's got
Mike
the
Reed is
Jameson
one of the leaders.
Williams.
Yeah, Mike Reed is one of the leaders on the streets, man.
This is wild. I don't even know. Sorry, Booner. As Mike Reed.
No.
These people are amazing. Continue. Sorry. The last two. What was the biggest spreads this year?
So no, and you're all good, dude. Mike Reed is an absolute legend. That's unbelievable. Shout out to all the people donating and supporting us. It's unbelievable. And the Booner Path, like that, it is like, this is awesome. No, I just like there's been 2 games all season that are double-digit favorites. I said it when we did the pick 'em on Friday. Last year there was a lot more games where you saw double-digit spreads. It felt like when we were doing these pick'ems last year, we kept seeing these double digits because I always take the underdog in the double-digit ones because 10 points in the NFL game, like that's tough. Like you don't see blowouts a ton in the NFL. It's a lot of one possession games. So to be an 11.5 point favorite, that shows that you're like Vegas looks at you at like a powerhouse of a team. And obviously the Titans aren't the best right now, but like I don't know. You guys could agree with me or not. I don't think like their defense is top. They have like a top 5 defense in the NFL right now. Like statistically wise, all across almost all categories, their defense is basically top 5. So it's not like they're that big of a scrub. It's just offensively they're not good, and they've gotten rid of pieces now. They're kind of selling the house and selling the farm over there. They're letting everything go. So I don't think it's a situation. I think the Lions are going to go in there and take care of business. I don't think it's going to be a situation to where you're like sweating bullets, one of those games. Is it going to be a 30, 40-point game? I don't think it's going to be like Dallas. I think Dan went into Dallas going, I'm going to he said it actually on he said it on, what was he on? The Rich Eisen show. I watched him this morning on the Rich Eisen show. And Rich, he asked him, he was like, did you guys like plan on going in and using all that? And he was like, yeah, he was like, we had a bunch of plays, a bunch of things. And he was like, I looked at Ben that at the start of the Dallas week and said, we're using everything. And he was like, I told the players we're using everything. And that's what he did. Now, I don't think that's like a week where you do that versus Tennessee and give away all of your tricks versus the Tennessee Titans. Like, probably not. But I think I'm not worried. If our offense wasn't the best offense in the NFL, if we were like a little outside of it, I would say, hey, this Tennessee defense is pretty good. Like, we do have to come out and be ready to go. You could argue it's a trap game, though, boys. I don't know what you guys think about that. There's an argument to be made.
Like a trap game as far as like the spread goes, or like
no, I'm saying just coming off two really. I'm saying but they're coming off 2 major high wins with the Dallas Cowboys and the Minnesota Vikings. You have a look ahead to the Green Bay Packers on the road, and another divisional game that could make or break your NFC North thing. You will win that next week. You almost lock it in because you just beat 2 of the top teams on the road. So like you have a little bit of a look ahead. You have those 2 high games that you just played, like massive win. This literally, guys, like it screams like we talked about in the preseason. We said what are trap games, and we talked about the definition of them. Our definition as a show, we all agreed, I think, on it, if I remember. It's coming off a massive win and then going into a week, and the next week there's another big time game, and that's like the definition of like of a trap game. And like I know it's a double-digit spread, and you're like, oh well, you can't lose this game. There has been like very lopsided losses in the NFL over the last few years. The Cardinals last year did it to, I think, the 49ers. Like there are those games. You have to go in ready, like still prepared, which Dan's going to make sure the team is. This, though, is like to a script, to a T. Like this is what a trap game is. And I'm sure Dan even has said it. I'm sure they've talked about it. Like, we don't care about last week or next week. Like, we have to focus on the Titans. It's easy to look ahead off this Titans team. Like, I see a lot of fans doing it, be like, oh, this is the easiest game of all time. Like, all right, you're setting yourself up for a trap game. As soon as I hear it's an automatic win, this is going to be a blow, an easy win. Ladies and gentlemen, we have entered the territory of a trap game.
Well, Boone,
I get what you're saying.
It might be a trap game then, Boone.
Jeff, they're doing it. They're doing it.
Hey,
they're
going to blow them out.
This is how the talk of the trap game starts.
or go ahead first. Go ahead first.
Oh, I was just gonna say if I get what you're saying about them, but like if it was a team with a half a pulse or even someone halfway decent at QB, then I
Trap
would
game.
agree. I'd have no confidence in the Tennessee Titans outside of when they played the Dolphins. They've let up 20 points to pretty much every opponent they've played. And even though their defense has added some pieces, it doesn't matter. The Lions are the hottest offense in the NFL, the hottest team in the NFL. I don't even care about the spread. I still think they cover that. It doesn't matter if it's in Tennessee, in Detroit. It doesn't matter. They're going to cover that spread.
Yeah,
And they're going to win the game.
Just to what Ong said, like I think this game will look very similar to the Dallas game, especially because it's at home. If this were on the road, Boone, I'd be like, you might be right. But then even then, it's like usually those trap games, like the other team has a playmaker or two. The only playmakers that Tennessee has on the defensive side of the ball, like Tony Pollard ain't getting loose. I'm sorry, he's not. And offensive line wise, who's been coaching in Tennessee the last couple of years that's now in the Detroit? Terrell Williams. So he's going to know, obviously, new quarterbacks, new head coach. Obviously, a lot of things have changed. But he knows those offensive linemen, at least a lot of them, their weaknesses and how to exploit them. And that's what the weakness is for the Detroit Lions, the defensive line. So they kind of have an X factor going for them. I think this will be a week where Terrion Arnold really shows what he can do. I get what you're saying about the trap game, but
I don't think you do, because if you did, you would
I hear what you're saying. If this were, let me think of the team.
Sounds like a sales call. I hear what you're saying there, sir, but
if this were and you guys know I can't stand them. If this were, and later on in the season we play them, the Jacksonville Jaguars, I'd hear you because they got a quarterback, they got some pieces on the offense. They got Brian Thomas, Mason Rudolph with Mike Tomlin was tied with the worst Detroit Lions team outside of the 2008 that we've seen. And I think when you look at that, he's in a worse situation. They just got nothing going for him. And the chances of them getting something going against the Detroit Lions is just something I can't see happening because the Lions were that team at one point.
Yeah. I mean, real quick, big shout out to Paul for he donated again. More people showing love, man. Appreciate you, Paul.
Anything we appreciate
the super chat. I want to add this too. Okay. I didn't get to answer my evaluation here on is it a trap game? I think it's a team that, maybe it compared to other NFL teams, like there could be a scenario where a team's overlooking a bad team. I think this team gives me so much confidence because of who they're coached by that they won't be looking ahead. I think you're 100% correct, Boone, on every part of your evaluation for most NFL teams. I think the Lions have showed us now that Dan Campbell, they live in the moment. They live in the now. And they're going to be 100% dialed in on the Tennessee Titans, and they're not going to let this game be a trap game. Now, like the spread, part of me, I kind of think they cover it, the Lions. I don't know. I think they win by 2 scores, So I get what you're saying. I wouldn't say it's a trap game just because of how different this brand new Lions team does not lose these types of trap games. They just don't. So even though you are correct, Boone, in your evaluation, what separates it from
to a T, like you guys would say last year, the Panthers were probably the worst team in football, right? Like they were probably this year's Tennessee Titans, or maybe they were worse. Like they caught the Houston Texans in the middle of the season last year in a similar situation, and the Texans lost. Like I don't know if they had injuries or what, but like that's like a situation where it's like you would never think that would happen. Now the difference for me to you guys is I'll say, yeah, this is a trap game because as a coach, you go into these weeks knowing like you look at it and you look at, all right, our team's coming off such a high versus some Vikings win on the road, a field goal, Jake Bates, and you just beat the Cowboys by 40. Me, in my coaching mind, all right, you know what I do? I'm going into the building on Monday morning or Tuesday morning, and I'm saying, all right, fellas, like and this is what Dan Campbell does, week by week, boys, week by week. Now, for you guys would go in and be like, hey, this isn't a trap game, boys. We're about to beat them by 40, boy. Like, no, I would go in and be like, lock in. Like, I don't care what we did the last 2 weeks. You lock in. I don't care if we play the Packers next week and they're playing really good football. You zone in and you get right here on the Booner path. You put the blinders on and you put your head down and you go straight forward. And that's why I think the Lions will beat them by 15, 17, 20 points. They're going to beat them by 1,000,000 points on Sunday. I truly agree with you guys on that point. But I do think it's like Dan's going into this week being like, hey, fellas, let's forget about last week. Let's not even think about next week. I know this team sucks. This team's not a great football team, one of the worst in the NFL, but you still have to go in and we have to take care of business on Sunday. You can't let one of these games slip up. You can't.
Now, I mean, I'm going to ask you guys this. Do you guys think that Dan Campbell brought up to the team that they haven't beaten the Titans the last like 6 times? Not Dan, but like the Lions. Like I saw like what was the stat they have? I think they're like 0-6 their last 6 games. I don't even know if that's actually correct. I saw people were putting it in the chat. Oh yeah, 0-6 is a crazy thing. You think Dan's mentioned that? You think that's something Dan would bring up? Like, hey boys, this team's 0-6. Not you guys, but let's go out there and kick some ass. Like try and give them that little extra edge a little bit.
I'm sure it's not like the main point of conversation by any means. It's not like at the top of the whiteboard, but I'm sure it's, he sprinkles it on as some extra fuel to the fire. I mean, kind of similar to what the Cowboys, obviously, the Lions' history with the Cowboys, it wasn't all with this team. A big part of it was being last year, but there was still some deep history with them and the Cowboys. So I'm sure the Lions even wanted to win that game for past games for against the Cowboys too. So.
Give them a little extra fuel. I don't know if 0-6. I guess the other way to put it is the Detroit Lions have never beaten the Tennessee Titans. I guess that. You remember those? Derrick Henry last time they faced him wasn't pretty. I mean,
the king.
Yeah, that was not pretty.
Never forget what Nate Washington did to Chris Houston. Those boys back in like 2010, 2011. Sean Hill was at quarterback.
Yeah,
Tiffin Dragon just made a play. Just made a play. It's what they do.
It's it hasn't been pretty. Coach Rock says Terrion's at the Pistons game.
Shout out.
Is he? Well, he's no wonder they're playing.
Doing an interview right now. Lock in, Pistons fan. Come on now.
Oh, I'm checking out. Don't worry, I got them open in the tab. I see they're up. I don't hear none of you guys mentioning it, but they're up.
Well, we've got a show. I'm locked into the show. I mean, I'm
they've won. Hey, technically, first 2 quarters they've won, so they've led the whole game. So I don't want to hear it,
buddy. You're talking about the first 2 quarters of how many quarters are in an NBA season?
Well, technically they didn't lead the whole game, but they led at the end of the quarters. I'll just go with that because actually at the beginning, I was sitting there a little worried, and then they clawed back. Cade's on an absolute tear right now. When Cade's dialed in, it's hard to stop the dude. I mean, it just is. It just is. Let's see. Brad Holmes, or don't overthink it, Booner. I understand your points, but some games are what they are. Lions will demolish the Titans.
So, yeah, that's where I don't want people to get like things confused. I still think the Lions cover and win this game. Like I think they win by 2 or 3 touchdowns, especially at home versus the Titans. I think Dan's going to have them absolutely dialed in. Like that's one thing Dan Campbell does is you don't see him slip up on trap games that much. Like you never really do. I'm just saying, like, hey, this is one of those trap games to where you do have to have the mindset, like, let's take care of business on Sunday, and then we can focus on Green Bay on Monday. Have some, because this is just one of those easy games to where it's like this team is so bad. You're the best team in football right now, but and I think the Lions have turned that corner over the last 12 months to where, like the Chiefs are constantly always like, no matter who they play, they're taking care of business. And the only games you have to worry about a team like the Chiefs losing is like in a primetime game versus a really good football team, and they drop it 1 possession by a field goal. Like that's where the Lions are at now. Like to where these are the games that you should have a no-brainer that they win. It's just about like staying locked in, building momentum. Like you think about the momentum guys you have over the last couple of weeks. You beat the Seahawks, you beat the Cowboys by 40, and now you just beat the Vikings who were 5-0 on the road. Like that momentum is like, let's keep this thing going. So go out there, keep the momentum going. Don't let the Tennessee Titans bring back that momentum at all, because you have to keep that momentum going for Green Bay next week, because you're going on the road to Lambeau. Because think about how big the Lambeau game is, boys. Like if you win that, you just won 2 out of. Yeah, you've won. If you win that game, you've won 2 out of the 3 road games in your division. You're automatically over 500 in the division on the road. That's huge. Like those are the games when we do our schedule predictions, we're like, they're probably like, if they're to drop a game, it's probably versus like Green Bay on the road or Minnesota on the road or Chicago on the road. If you could win that Green Bay game, you're in a good spot. You're in a great spot. So don't let the momentum up. Like don't let the gas off the pedal or your foot off the gas.
Hey, there you go.
You got it.
Carrying the momentum offensively, if you can drop another 30-40 burger this week against Tennessee, who's, I know I said they were the best defense in the NFL yesterday on the show, but it's not true. You guys are right. It's the Chiefs defense. either way, Tennessee Titans defense is very good. If you're able to go light them up with no Jameson Williams offensively, that would be huge to be going into Green Bay too. So offensively, that's going to have to be always really has been the identity of this team, but now it's got to be even more so with no Aiden Hutchinson and the injuries you have on defense. So this can be a big week for both sides, but offensively, I think it's the most pivotal.
Yeah, I agree. I think they cover this game. I do. And we're going to break it more down with who our guest is today, every single Wednesday. I mean, come on. Does he really need any introduction? I mean, this dude is just the best in the business. And by the way, check out his stuff. Detroit Lions on Sports Illustrated. Read his articles. Doc is quick. Pumps out like 20, 30 articles a day. He's a sicko. And he's joining the show. And this is brought to you guys by BetUS, the one, the only, the Doc. What up, John? How you doing?
What's up, fellas? But let's give the disclaimer. All views expressed by John Maakaron do not necessarily reflect those of Crunch Time Sports, their sponsors. Let me do the talking and you do the interpreting. It's all for your entertainment, fellas. What's going on? I'm excited. 5-1 Detroit Lions, baby. It's trade talk season. A lot of shit to talk about. What's going on, fellas?
Felt like I just entered a Rob Dyrdek's Fantasy Factory show at the beginning. Everything's done by professionals.
I know Doc's got like his own disclaimer now when he joined. Like, I think that's fair, Doc. Well, hey, Doc, I got to ask you. All right, and we'll get to the trade rumors. We'll get to, obviously, the weekend coming up. I want to ask you about the Vikings game. Your reaction to that game. Hell of a game, Doc, on the road, undefeated team. They took care of business. What'd you think of the win? And then I'll just follow that up with the real question I do want to ask you. What'd you think of this defensive line, Doc, without Aiden Hutchinson? I need a keep it 100, Doc, evaluation of the game and in that defensive line. What do you think?
No doubt. First and foremost, spiced Arnold Palmer to quench the thirst. Good times here with a 5-1 football team. Look, that first quarter had everybody kind of going, whoa, wait a minute. The things that I was concerned about started to happen. Coyote Awosika kind of got in a little bit of trouble there. The pressure from Flores was getting to the offensive line. But once they settled in, once Jahmyr Gibbs had that explosive run, then they were off to the races. They got settled in, and the Lions had the answers. And when you look at it, boy, did Ben Johnson supremely prepare his football team to handle Brian Flores. So all the concerns that were there were clear that Brian Flores was going to bring the pressure, and the Lions needed to be focused, dialed in, and, man, kudos to Jared Goff. You got to give him his flowers. Comes out of that game with an MVP caliber performance, another one. And, look, he's just really rewriting what people are thinking about him, forcing me now to take a different stance about what he's potentially capable of if he plays at this level. But I was impressed. They were able to hold on, battle through adversity, and really take it to the Vikings to establish, hey, the Lions are the team to beat. And, hey, like I said in my article, and like I said here, Lions were going to win. I was never did not doubt that the Lions could overcome the struggles that they had, but clearly they missed Aiden Hutchinson. It sucked. They tried to patchwork it. They're trying to solve the riddle. But look, when you hear the stat that Aiden Hutchinson can get 15 pressures by himself and the Lions barely got to that collectively, that's a concern, because going forward, you're going to need to address that. But, hey, they're going to try some new answers with Isaiah Thomas kind of getting into the mix now and more pressures. But the crazy part is, can the Lions sustain blitzing over 50% like they did last week? That was crazy to see the defense just bringing the pressure to that degree, but they just weren't able to get home. But in the end, you realize that this is a football team that has enough talent to sustain injuries to still win games. It's crazy. And more stars are emerging every single week with Brian Branch, Jahmyr Gibbs. And it was just great to see the victory. It puts everybody in a good mood. And it just allows people to say, okay, yeah, you're going to need to bolster. Clearly, the big thing people are paying attention to is you got to still add and replace Aiden Hutchinson. That was my biggest takeaway.
Hey, Doc, I want to bring up the big news, obviously, that came out over the last couple of days here with Jameson Williams. I saw some of your comments on Twitter. Not comments. I saw your responses to people. I've seen everyone kind of in a battle with kind of the situation that's going on with Jameson Williams in the suspension that potentially could happen over the next few days. Can you just touch on and just explain to the people kind of the process of what's going on right now with JMO?
Yeah.
And then even with that kind of how your thoughts on the situation and kind of expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, no doubt. It was crazy. It was Monday. I was watching Netflix, trying to unwind, having a good time after a long Monday. You guys know how much work I put into it, and you're just exhausted. You're just like, Monday is actually crazier than Sunday. Sunday is fun. You get to watch the game, analyze it, and it's automatic. Monday's the review where you got a lot of content to push out. And it's late at night. I'm wired, and my wife comes down. Did you see the news? I'm like, no. I try to put my phone down like 10:30, and I'm like, no. That's the last thing I want to see is news. That's the last thing a human like me wants to see at 11 o'clock at night is news. And I'm like, oh my God, seriously? My wife told me this story. What happened? I saw it. I saw the DMs of my brother-in-law. I'm like, of course, my brother-in-law is a dick. He's like, where are you on this one, Mr. Sports Illustrated? I was like, damn, I was just trying to not focus on the Lions for half an hour. But I started to write it, and here's what happened. Clearly, at that time, Jameson Williams got notification that the results of his test indicated that there were substances in his test that did not belong there. Okay, and clearly he got word that potentially he was going to be suspended. And he has a close relationship with an ESPN reporter who messaged him. And maybe the only mistake that Jameson made in this whole ordeal, whenever it comes out what he did that was wrong, is to actually reply to that message and said, hey, I got to take it on the chin on this one. And I'm looking forward to getting back with the guys. Well, clearly to anyone seeing that's in a report, that looks and appears to be an admission of guilt. Doesn't that to anybody common sense? Oh, I got to take this one on the chin. So clearly then what people are doing is they're going into this mode of what's the degree? How bad is the league screwing? What's the loophole that he basically broke? Look, clearly, guys, there is a long list of things that you can ingest and things you can't. And it is up to the player to diligently keep up to date with that. They have parameters so that players can message and figure this stuff out. So that's why you don't see this too often, because you can kind of work your way through it by paying attention, by understanding the rules clearly. So now where we're at is, the fans are wondering, well, why hasn't it happened? Well, today we figured out when we got back into the building, because Tuesday's an off day, that he still can appeal this. Okay. And, I think the deadline would be Friday evening if he wants to appeal it. And maybe the Lions try to finagle something where the suspension happens with the appeal process after the NFC games. Maybe you say, okay, potentially, if you do this appeal process, maybe you miss the potentially the Texans and the Jaguars as opposed to this. To me, clearly, from how I understand this, he is going to be suspended. It's just when, and I don't think there's going to be anything that's going to be lowered. I think he violated a basic PES rule that something in the system shouldn't have been there. It was just not intentional. It's not the, craziness that people would assume it could be. It's a mistake that he owned up to, and that I just think that, in my opinion, should just be addressed and talk about it. I made a mistake. You've heard it before by a lot of players. You just say, look, it's my responsibility to understand everything that I need to have in my body. I made a big mistake. I own up to it, accept it, and get this out of the news cycle. But they're going to delay it. And, he was at practice, and you saw Dan Campbell. He's like, I don't want to be answering these questions. Nobody wants to be talking about Jameson Williams this way. But in the end, whenever you're a distraction, whenever you are not being talked about in terms of football terms, it's a problem. It's not professional. You don't see others on the lines acting this way. It's him. So it's young. Okay, you can make all the excuses for what happened and why it happened, but I'm not into all that enabling type stuff. It's clear. Are you following the rules or are you not? I don't care what the substance is. I don't care what degree it is. I don't care if it was a PES. I do not care. I just know that potentially something came up that was not football related, that's causing a lot of noise and forcing me to do podcast segments on it that shouldn't be there. So to me, you own up to it, take accountability, and hopefully this is the last time that Jameson Williams is being suspended for something that is ridiculous. It's really ridiculous because players are this is not something where, a player cannot understand it. You're given a sheet, you understand, you can call people, you can do the work. It's just a lapse in doing the due diligence that you're supposed to do. And it could cost the Lions eventually. Now, they could delay it, they could whatever. To me, I would just, in the end, consequence-wise, the Lions don't need Jameson Williams against the Tennessee Titans. They blow. But the Packers game, maybe you say, okay, we want him around for that. But again, the part that makes it hard is so many people are questioning the media and facts and trying to do this conspiracy theory thing when the facts are staring you right in the face. They're staring like when Dave Burkett writes something, it's as good as gold. 2 sources told him that the suspension's coming. What more do you need than that? Oh, it could be this, it could be that. Maybe, I and the tough part is that I, have a high amount of respect for what Dan Campbell tells us directly. Would he pull gamesmanship on the Titans? It's not needed. The Titans suck. So I believe that when we ask him directly, is Jameson potentially going to be available? He said it all week. So unless he is pulling some gamesmanship, he said, no, I don't think he's there. We're prepared without him. So you can parse words and all of that. But to me, it's just kind of black and white story. Mistake happened. A consequence will occur. Make sure it doesn't happen again. Act professional, and let's keep it moving. The rest is just a lot of real weird denial, real weird trying to support someone that made a mistake and owned up to it. It's like, hey, you made a mistake. He's going to be talked to pretty sternly, and own up to your mistake. Don't do this again. This is your second suspension in 2 years. It's pretty cut and dry. Do not be on this kind of list ever again, or that's it. Move on.
Hey, Doc, I just have a follow-up question with all of that, because I think what you said is I thought kind of you explained it in a good way. You being in the building and kind of all the reporters and stuff, do you guys get a sense at all, or like for players, like going about the process of whether he had prescriptions and whatever it was, they're all taught this, correct? Like, was it, like, this is something that's well known, and I'm sure they have people in the building, correct, that are helping them through this. Because I know, like, even in college at the NCAA, at the level like I was at, like when it was with grades or different things, there was, or even with supplements, like you had to take it to your strength coach, you had to take it to trainers, things like that, or prescriptions, because the NCAA tested once a month, and you had to be able to, hey, if something came up, here we have this. Is it? I'm sure the Lions, this doesn't happen a lot here in Detroit, does it? Or is this just kind of like the first time that it's happened since you've been covering the team?
Yeah, you look at it, you see suspensions across the league. You've seen these type of things before, but the gambling one was just as egregious. You sit in a symposium, you understand it. Now, yeah, you can debate that maybe the letter of the law, the intent could have been adapted differently because he didn't bet on football, but it was a rule that he violated. This one's the same. That it's about due diligence. It's about focusing 100% on these things, especially if you're taking medicines, or especially if you're taking something that you're prescribed. You got to make sure you got to double and triple check that these things are allowed to be ingested. It is your job, especially at the level that you're getting paid. You got to make sure you mind your P's and Q's, because everything can be viewed under a microscope, and you don't know what an organization is going to think, because you're talking potentially millions of dollars. Now, I don't think it's going to cost him down the road in terms of dollars. They're going to pick up his 5th-year option. It would be wise. He's going to ball out. He's got pure natural skill. It's just one of those things where you're creating noise and a perception that you're not as detailed off the field as you are on the field. And that's also part of the job of being a professional is, and I said this on the latest Lone Wolves podcast, your job as a professional, as you get compensation at a very high rate, is to be the utmost professional on the field and off the field. And as people are investing in you, you have to do your due diligence and not get suspended. I mean, it's Tim. He's basically the only player of the core that we're talking about in this light. And so he just got to step it up, and it is time to mature more. He's maturing, but still not to the degree in which you got to say, hey, I can trust the guy.
And kind of the caveat to that, when you look at now, okay, no Jameson Williams, but now going into just the Tennessee Titans week, we kind of talked about it earlier on, and we all gave our opinions. Who do you think is going to benefit the most as far as this is still going to be lead offense with or without Jameson Williams? Now, who do you think steps up, even from Tim Patrick to Jahmyr Gibbs? Who do you think really steps up while J-Mo could be out?
Yeah, Dan Campbell said Allen Robinson could shoulder quite a bit. To me, look, I'm not concerned at all in terms of the offense. I think the offense is purring at such a high rate. I think that the ability to answer what a defense can give. They've seen this coordinator's work before with the work that he's done with basically Baltimore's defense. So they've seen it before. So to me, I think I like the opportunities that Khalif Raymond could have in this offense and Tim Patrick. So I think that when you look at it, there's also an opportunity for Sam Laporta to have a get-right game. I think you just got to avoid Justin Simmons, make sure that Landry doesn't get too much pressure in the backfield, and you handle business. I just think that I'm really liking the progression of Tim Patrick. I just think that his sure-handedness is very much reliable. I think that he's becoming that glue guy that, Jared Goff can trust. Khalif Raymond, when his dance in the end zone was great. I thought that him getting an opportunity the last couple of weeks to kind of get a little bit more involved will handle it. And Dan Campbell rattled off the names. I mean, the offense is great. And I just think, too, and maybe another opportunity for Jahmyr Gibbs to have another explosive run. So the offense is going to be just fine this week. We'll do our due diligence to see, can the Lions go toe-to-toe with the Packers on the road? But you don't got to worry about that. I just think this game's going to be comfortable. I don't know if it's going to be a pure blowout. It's tough. But I do think the Lions will be able to score at will. And what a great opportunity after a win against the Vikings. And the Titans are making trades, and they're moving on from pieces. And, I think people were joking around. They'd rather see Will Levis back there than Rudolph. But I think that the Lions are going to have a nice professional afternoon against the Titans. It's going to be fun. Hopefully over by halftime.
Yeah, and Doc, you just talked about him, and Dan Campbell talking about him. Allen Robinson, obviously with J-Mo being gone, what kind of role do you expect for him to kind of jump into this game against the Tennessee Titans, and obviously the next game as well if J-Mo is going to be out?
Yeah, no doubt. I think it's great. My co-host on the Lone Wolves podcast, Christian, really has been trying to get more run for Allen Robinson. Look, he's a true pro. I think he'll be open. Look, I'm curious too about Isaiah Williams. I think that it'll be great to see I think Dan Campbell said they'll bring him up as well. I'm curious to see, do they give him a little bit of run? Allen Robinson's a pro. He understands everything that goes on. And I think maybe he'll have a couple targets. He'll have an opportunity to kind of get his feet under him and get after it a little bit. I think that, when you look at Allen Robinson, it's so crazy because everybody kind of wants to see the Allen Robinson of old, and it just hasn't been there. I've talked about this with you guys. I just thought that when it didn't hit with Stafford, I thought that was really interesting. Like, why didn't that hit? But he's just a true pro. I think he's, one of those guys that maybe is more there for being in the locker room to kind of just be a glue guy and teach and give experience for defenses and other stuff than more on the field. But now he's going to have an opportunity to get out there, make some plays, and we'll see. I think he'll be targeted. He'll have an opportunity, and we'll see him kind of maybe now put up some stats. I don't think it's going to be tremendous, maybe 2 catches, 30 yards or things like that. I want to see in an offense like this, put the ball in your star's hand. So it's Gibbs, Montgomery, St. Brown, and Laporta. Go with those 4, and then the rest can be split up amongst the other guys, as you've kind of seen. And you just need maybe a deep target to them if you set up the run early and you have an open look. So we'll see how it plays out. But Allen Robinson's unique because everybody wants to see him do well. It just hasn't been there the past couple of years.
Well, Doc, we had some heartbreaking news earlier this week. Very just tragic news. I got respect for people that want to remain with the same franchise. Okay, I do. The Dirks of the world or the Kobes of the world, but not when it doesn't fit my narrative, Doc. I'm selfish. I want talent. And Max Crosby has, the nerve to go on his podcast and say, reiterate that he wants to stay a Raider. And, he joked about seeing all the jersey swaps and the fans tagging him and everything. We tried to listen to you, Doc. We fought hard. I'm putting out content, Doc. Give me your thoughts on just this trade deadline, kind of how it's going for the Lions, the Max Crosby stuff, the Myles Garrett stuff, just your thoughts on the Max Crosby stuff essentially being dead.
Whoa.
Is it dead, Doc? Is it dead?
Whoa. Wait a minute. First and foremost, I do want to give credit. I never thought in a million years someone would create a YouTube page called Where's Doc's Missing Hair. Actually, boys, it's crazy. I started thinning out at 23. So I'm shocked. I never had the full head of hair, maybe as a teenager, but I've always been follically challenged. I've made my way through life so far.
No.
So I'm thankful that they have caps that kind of hide what's going on and, better on camera than in real life. So thank you. That's really funny. That's really flattering. Okay, guys, did you not read the work that got nationally heralded, that got put out? It went big. And I think it was in the time frame, maybe Friday or Saturday, I put it out there. That go read it. The title of the article is Latest Max Crosby Buzz. And I can share with you guys, I spoke to somebody who has spoken to Max Crosby directly.
Whoa.
Read the story. It's latest Max Crosby buzz. See, that's why you got to read every day. I know I said don't read the headlines, but that one was juicy and a lot of people saw it. So in that article, first sources, Max Crosby would clearly like to come to Detroit. And in that article on Friday, I already previewed what he said on the podcast. He wants to, obviously, he cannot stand in front of his teammates and be like, I want to leave the Raiders. He's not going to do that. He's a Raider. He's a guy that has been a pillar of their organization, clearly written in that. But he has stated to others, of course he wants to come here. He's got a facility, football field named after him. He's got local ties here. So to me, look, like I said last week, the only way it would facilitate faster and maybe in the Lions' favor in terms of compensation is if he came out and said it. But in the article, it's clear. And that's why it's not a matter of being dead. The Lions would have to give up the whole house to get Max Crosby. The compensation is just ridiculous. And guys, it's bargaining. So at this point, the Raiders are not going to at all entertain the notion that Max Crosby is going to be traded. You cannot put that out there. But that's just spin and PR, guys. Spin, PR. It's clear. I wrote that because everybody knows that. So it's clear. But it's one of those deals where the Raiders are going to ask for the world. You got to hope, again, continue doing what you have been doing. I don't think it was started by me, but keep tagging Max Crosby.
Started a movement, Doc. You started
keep
a movement.
the pandemonium going. Keep the jerseys, the white ones, the blue ones. Keep the pandemonium going. He knows what the deal is. He knows the passion of the fans. Unfortunately, he's a great player, and it is going to take probably three first rounders, and maybe even a player. So that's the problem. It's one of those deals where Brad Holmes is doing his due diligence, guys. He's burning up the phone. He's doing everything possible to understand where it's at. But right now, the negotiating ploy is not anywhere near a team's favor. Again, you just need the Raiders to get their ass kicked. You need it to kind of appear clearly that it's going nowhere. And look, Max Crosby is probably never going to come out and say, I want to be traded. But if a team makes the world offer, you have to listen because it could set off your organization for a long period of time. Now, with all of that said, that was the buzz on Friday. Of course, he's going to come out on his podcast and try to settle the noise because he's got to walk in a building every day and everybody's side-eyeing him like, what's going on? But in the end, do I believe Max Crosby will be a Lion? No, I don't believe that because the Raiders are going to ask for the whole house, the whole world. You just need the Lions to make the offer and get someone, whether it be me or somebody, just tell someone, hey, we made an offer, 2 picks and a second, first and a fourth, whatever. We offered this, and they said no. Make sure that the fan base knows you tried. If you don't try, it's going to upset a lot of people because he's the guy that not only could unlock your defense now, him with Aiden next year, you could potentially win 2 Super Bowls with that defensive line, with where they're at. But it's not dead. It's not dead at all. It's currently at the point where the Raiders have all the control, and you need the leverage kind of to swing a little bit in someone else's favor down the road. So keep up, guys. Make sure you visit Lions on SI, and we have sources that are close to Max Crosby. And it was great to write. It was great to get some information on what was going on. And it was clear. I mean, it was pretty clear. I mean, Max Crosby, it would never, ever in a day if a trade were to happen, he would have the biggest smile and he would come here full force, ready to dominate and be what he is. But his podcast is great. His co-hosts are hilarious. And it was just joy just thinking, man, the fans of Detroit blew up his phone to the degree that he called it a revolution and pandemonium. So just enjoy the ride and let's see what happens. But yeah, the odds are low, but it's not zero. The odds are low, but it's not zero.
Hey, Doc, real quick, Boone. What happened with you and Valeni? I heard Valeni brought up an article of yours, Doc. Can you confirm
that was the article? That was the article. So here's the fun part. Just a quick side note. I don't want to talk about myself. Here's the fun part about Mike Valeni. He's a reader, clearly, of our listen. I am a radio guy. I'm a content guy. So the stuff I write, he said, was interesting. What's been hilarious is over the years, because I'm a listener regularly of the radio and a lot of my friends listen, over the years, I would say he's used maybe 8-9 of my articles as topics, and he'll shout out the site. He'll say Sports Illustrated, but then it's so weird because I'm a fan of his and his stuff is very unique and just interesting and sparks debate. He's always giving me a backhanded compliment, like grain of salt, is Sports Illustrated a thing? Who is John Maakaron? He's always giving me a whack, in the side of the head.
What did he say this time?
But all I can do is, as I share with my friends, I just go, you know what? I'm going to just take the high road. He reads my site. I earned his click or his producer's click. They read my stuff. He read the article. It blew up the article. So in the end, I can respect Mike, but do your homework. I mean, it's funny to me because I'm like, you read my name, you read my site, you call out the site regularly, but you always throw it in with like some backhanded compliment, like I'm some unreliable person that doesn't do the job properly. So to me, it's weird. It's always starting off with, oh, this is interesting, let's talk about it. And then it always ends up with like, take it with a grain of salt. I don't know if this is real. I don't know if John's a human being. Is he an alien? But he always has a weird backhanded thing to say to me. And the craziest part is he's a Spartan. I'm a Spartan. And I'm also close with Rico. I talk to Rico regularly. I shoot him messages. I see him at Michigan State. So when he says John Maakaron, I don't know if everybody knows me as Doc or, if I'm still flying under the radar as Detroit Sports Podcast. So it's crazy because how do you not know? I mean, you've been reading my site. He's been reading my site for 6 years and has used content from my site to spark discussions. But listen, I'll take it. It's humbling. And it always is fun when you hear your name on the radio and people go, hey, Doc on the radio. It's like, yeah, man, thank you. I appreciate it. Yes, I would expect that people would find my stuff interesting because I'm in the interesting business.
Doc, I do love that. I do want to ask you this, though. I know we talked about Max Crosby. Leading up to the trade deadline, obviously, I think everyone knows this in Detroit. Like, Brad does have to make a move one way or another, whether Max is out of the picture or not. Want to get your thoughts on like some realistic options here. I know Harold Landry, I saw today from the Titans, is being talked in trade conversations. I saw the Lions were involved in that. And, obviously, I don't know how true that could be. And then it's the same thing with Zadarius Smith and all these different guys. What's realistic for you? Like, what do you see Brad doing here? Say it's not a Myles Garrett or a Max Crosby. What would you do if you were the GM and if you were Brad Holmes?
Yeah, no doubt. It's fun because I'm not bold about one take that I threw out there on a podcast. It kind of flew under the radar and I didn't highlight it, so it's good. But a couple of days ago on the podcast, I said, to me, it's crazy to think about, but when you say it out loud, because of his injury status, but I'd love Cooper Kupp on the Lions. I would love it. Double down on more offense as well. Remember, I don't know if I've said it here, but I say, hey, couple pieces on offense, couple pieces on defense. Cooper Kupp would be very interesting. The problem is he's never healthy, and you don't want to, give up a second rounder for him, but that's intriguing. Like that's a name that now is starting to get talked about by people. I had already said that last week. So I was like, you know what? I've already had a good month. My wild ass trade crazy troll tweet that I threw out there yesterday was enough drama for me. But to me, pay attention to offense because, when you have an offense that's great, making it better is never a bad thing. So just pay attention to the Rams and maybe players from there because of the natural tie. But, if it's not Max Crosby, to me, again, I think it's low, but not dead. I think that the guy that's trying his best is Zadarius Smith. I think he knows the division. I think he's the safest fit for the team. If not, I think Landry's tryout. It's great. It's crazy too that he overcame a bad leg injury. I think it was an ACL injury a couple of years ago, but he's rebounded. That's a nice, individual that's kind of put up some sacks that would fit in this room. A name to pay attention to that I think I assigned to Christian that came out today was Ojulari. I think he's also very intriguing. The Lions got to see him a little bit in the joint practices, and obviously the relationship that Dan has with the Giants and Coach Dayball. They can get some intel there too. But what's crazy is Dan Campbell is so raw and honest that he's just like, we need culture fit, we need scheme fit, we need understanding of this and that. And it's a long checklist of what the Lions need to fulfill. There's a couple guys out there that do it, but guys, here's what you're kind of hearing too. And there's a lot of good information out there too that makes sense. The reason why you can't maybe also consider a Myles Garrett or a Max Crosby in the negative camp is they're potentially lined up to give Aiden Hutchinson $40 million a year. That's a lot. That's a lot of cash to give that man, and he's well earned it. I mean, every dollar that he potentially could earn, he's already got 7.5 sacks, and I think I read that even after last week, he still leads the league in pressures after missing a game. Those are sick numbers, and the Lions, once they realize that he's going to come back fully healthy, they realize they can get this guy for 10 years and be one of the greats. So that's gonna put a dent, especially when you still got more guys to pay, like a Joseph and a Brian Branch. So the splash makes it kind of tough because, yes, the Lions sit with plus 30 million or so in the cap right now, but that dwindles pretty fast, and you got more to come. So that's why the home run, maybe we can put that to bed. But I'm hoping it's a surprise. But to me, the leader in the clubhouse is Zadarius Smith. That's the name everyone's talking about. Followed by Landry, followed by Ojulari, followed by Uche, and you go down the road. But first and foremost, let's see how Isaiah Thomas does, and maybe he'll make it so that the Lions, maybe have to rethink things.
And Doc, let's just say the Lions don't make a move on the defensive line. You brought up possibility of an offensive trade. Say that happens, and the Detroit Lions, the Brad Holmes, do not make a move on the defensive line. Do you believe that this team can win the Super Bowl? Not make the Super Bowl, because I made the case yesterday. I think they're a team that can make the Super Bowl. When it comes down to winning it, I don't think they can do it without a true pass rush. What is your opinion on if they do not make a move at the trade deadline?
Man, it's tough. It would depend on how they're playing. I look at it like the heart rate factor. My heart would explode watching the Super Bowl without another defensive lineman. I think everybody would panic. And you look at the Ravens, man, they're legit. Lamar has already torched you before. He has the answers to Aaron Glenn. He's a freak of nature. Derrick Henry, is he going to get to that game healthy? And my God, he's a monster at 30 years old doing his thing. You realize, okay, they got 2 tight ends, and the tight ends have been giving Lions problems in the past with Likely and Andrews now picking up. Of course, Mark Andrews gets a couple touchdowns the last couple weeks as I cut him in every fantasy league. That's probably why he picked it up. But I realize I like the Ravens. I like the Texans a little bit more than the Lions in terms of their ability to win. But that doesn't mean, in the end, I do think that, in talking to Dave Burkett on a podcast, which you guys can go see, he said that Brad Holmes is willing to F the picks, but he just maybe doesn't believe this is the year to do it. If you really think about it, next year as well has the potential to be just an unbelievably stellar year with another draft class, another free agent, 2 all-world safeties, the experience of Ennis Rakestraw and Terrion Arnold. I mean, my God, you look at what they're doing now. Next year, you probably could load up with 3-4 guys in the F the picks model. So to me, I think they get there. Again, my season prediction was they get there and lose. I can't wait to see how the Lions play against Houston. Of course, which was really ironic to me too. I want to say this real fast and apologize if I'm long-winded. I did an article, pros and cons of Lions signing. I wrote it, Devin White. And the media, they like to joke around a little bit. A couple guys were like, Devin White, he has no, come on, John, show more restraint. I said, that article did great. That was, I put some effort into that. And really, in the end, I said, no, he probably doesn't fit. And then who gets him? due to injury the Texans. So it kind of felt like a little bit of vindication, like, hey, he's not like totally out of the question, but he's just not a scheme fit. He just doesn't fit, but he's a name. And if you're injury depleted like the Texans are, they went and got him. So I'm curious to see. And look, I know everyone's like, oh, the Chiefs got a guy and the Texans got a guy and people are making trades. The Lions are desperate, but they're not that desperate. The Chiefs are desperate. They lost 2 of their receivers. They need some help. The Texans are down a couple guys. So the Lions still have 3-4 replacements for Aiden Hutchinson that they want to evaluate. So the Lions are desperate, but not as desperate as the teams making the trades. So guys, do not say that Brad Holmes is sitting on his hands or listen, I'm aware Brad Holmes is using that phone to find out stuff. Okay. And to find out good stuff. So it's just, he knows the information. If you think he needs to know it, he knows it. Okay. Trust me. I've talked to the man. I talked to people that have talked to the man. The man is all world as a GM. And we're not talking about a lack of due diligence. We're talking about, are you willing to do it or are you not? And it's simple as that. And you can make the argument when he defends himself that I don't want to give up 3 first-round picks. I can turn those 3 guys into maybe 3 Super Bowls. So he can make an argument. But trust me, Brad Holmes is picking up the phone and he's aware of what the cost is to get big-time players. It's just, is he going to do it? But to me, I just think they're right now 3-4 players short of being like, okay, we can watch the game and not have a heart attack. I think I was overstated in saying that right now, if the Lions didn't make a move, they'd be 7-point underdogs. I think they'd be like 3.5-point underdogs right now to the Ravens in the Super Bowl.
And Doc Boone brought this up earlier. Excuse me. He was thinking that the Lions coming in, obviously they're 10.5-point favorites against the Titans in Detroit. He was viewing this as a trap game. I was just wanting to get your response on that. Do you possibly view this game as a trap game?
Caveat real quick, Doc, still think they win by 2 possessions. I still think
look,
listen. He calls it a trap game, but they win by 2 possessions.
I think it's Doc. It's a clear trap game coming off a high of 2 big wins. Next week you have Green Bay. It's like Titans just might be that bad though that you could beat it by 2 possessions. That's all.
No doubt. This is the true definition of a trap game. But Dan Campbell don't mess around.
Thanks, Doc.
When he don't mess around when he comes to preparing his team. He's got them respecting the Titans. We just saw Terrion Arnold on the screen talking to Johnny Kane saying, hey, we know who the good players are and who can perform well. The Lions do not disrespect any of their opponents. They just are going to go handle business. They're just going to execute, and their talent is going to show out and just be able to dominate. So I would be shocked. Maybe you have a slow couple possessions, maybe similar to what you saw. Man, I don't know how. I'm curious. How are you guys reacting to that first quarter? Because it was looking pretty scary against the Vikings when you saw those first couple pass rushes. You're like, man, maybe Doc was right with his defensive being scared of Brian Flores. But man, after they settled in, after Jahmyr Gibbs got it going, listen, whatever it's going to take, might be a branch, this might be a Kirby Joseph game, but the Lions have supremely way more talent. And hopefully you realize that the ability to run the football, dominate on the defensive line. And man, I just think that the Titans are in such a rough spot right now. They just can't match up. Once the Lions get to 14 points, that's all it's going to take. The Titans, I'm not concerned in any capacity. I'm just hoping that the game is out of hand by the third quarter so I can sit back and actually watch the game instead of having to type. I'm hoping it's not a trap game. I'm hoping they play well. But, you never discount your opponent. Dan Campbell does not. From where he came from and how he gets these guys ready, there's no chance that they fall off in this game. They dominate.
And before we get you out of here, Doc, I do want to ask you on the Jared Goff stuff. Jared Goff, the way he's been playing, he's creeping up in those MVP conversations, Doc. He's creeping up in those MVP conversations. He's like top 5 right now. It's a wide open race. Your thoughts on his play and a realistic shot at being a top MVP candidate, but not just that, but potentially winning it. Your thoughts?
Yeah, it's great, man. It's great to see elite quarterback play, knowing the answers, getting the ball out quickly, great throws, really in the face. And like I said, I had to eat my words and say, I thought that all Brian Flores had to do was dial up the blitz and there was going to be a problem. I was wrong. I thought that Brian Flores would do a little bit more consistently, but he kind of maybe even outthought himself. Many people thought that messaged me after the game that are Vikings fans and reporters said, you know what? The Vikings might have just been better to play four-man front and drop back 7 and see what happens. That pressure, I think the Lions knew what was coming, and Brian Flores got stubborn, and the Lions had the answers. It was just like boom, boom, boom. And Jared Goff put on a masterclass in that first half and just handled business. The chemistry with Amon-Ra was great to see a touchdown. I thought Khalif Raymond's touchdown was great. I mean, you literally can enjoy that game where Khalif Raymond puts the defender on the ground. It was great. Jahmyr Gibbs finally gets that explosive touchdown. Look, the problem is Jared Goff will be talked about as the MVP, but I don't know if he's got the national buzz, like, because he's so low key, so down to earth. You know what I mean? Just like, 5-minute interviews, boom, in and out, just kind of gives the cliche answers. I think that Lamar Jackson has a little bit more pizzazz in his game. And I just think that for whatever reason, the national media are going to gravitate towards Mahomes as he's all world and running down the sideline for 30 yards, and Lamar Jackson. So to me, he's in the conversation. That's all you can ask for. So the awards are great, but to me, let's just enjoy this quarterback play and what he's doing. 30 years old, in his prime, revitalizing his career. Everybody talking about what the potential that this guy has, earning his contract. We got him at a steal in terms of what he's getting paid versus what. I mean, could you imagine if you're at Dallas right now and you're seeing Dak Prescott throw the ball to the Lions at the frequency that he did, and Jared Goff's making $20 million less and getting that production and the way that the team was built in that manner? Look, we should appreciate Jared Goff and stop probably critiquing that he's not mobile. He's a traditional pocket passer. But now, at the same token, the other clickbait artists in town besides me are, highlighting that people are saying that he's Tom Brady, that he's like Joe Montana. Let's pump the brakes. You do need the ring in a team sport. You still do need the ring to kind of get into that conversation in the biggest of big games. But remember, I've always said you can win a lot of football games with Jared Goff in the regular season. Crunch time, Final Four, down to the 2 best teams. That's when you need that MVP caliber performance. And the first time he got into the dance, Bill Belichick ran a train on him. So this second time, if he gets there, I think he'll cash in.
Doc, I want to ask.
The train. It was like Bill Belichick had him. He knew every move. He basically had Jared Goff in that Rams offense in a tizzy to the point that they had no clue what they were doing.
Doc, I want to ask you here, one player that's been talked about a lot, and I saw the Kay Adams show, and Kay Adams had said that potentially the best player in football right now is Brian Branch. I just want to get your thoughts on how he's playing right now, and it's like, is this something that he's just going to keep getting better? Like, he's probably the best safety in the NFL. He's only in year 2, and it feels like he's only going to get better from here. What are your thoughts on this whole Brian Branch kind of resurgence here?
Yeah, man, it's been great to see. Brian Branch, again, as we also can tie in the fact that this is Michigan State week, still burns that I got to watch Nick Saban coach the Spartans when I was there. And when he asked for more control, the cheap Michigan State Spartans. Now, I'm biased. I would like to think that he would have turned State into Alabama, but what would have happened was he would have won a natty and then he would have went to the NFL, and it would have sucked. It would have hurt. But he had the Spartans this close to national relevancy. We had Nick Saban. I watched Nick Saban coach football when I was in college. And I told the guys that. I tell Brian Branch all the time, I'm like, the Spartans had your guy. We had the chance. They just wouldn't give him the money. They wouldn't give him the control. And he jettisoned to LSU and wins the national title, and then goes to the NFL, and then goes to Alabama. So it wouldn't have maybe been as good as I would have liked, but man, let's credit Nick Saban for the great work that he did getting these guys where they need to be. Terry and Arnold, Brian Branch, Jahmyr Gibbs, Jameson Williams, even though he's still maturing, there's still a lot of great things that Nick Saban taught these guys, and why it's a perfect fit for Brian Branch. Aaron Glenn is hard on him. Like, hey, every play you make a mistake, this is where you need to be. And Brian Branch embraces it. He said publicly, I think on the Amon-Ra podcast, hey, that's the guy that's had the most influence on me. I want to be coached hard. He looks out for me. He wants me to be the best player. And in a short time, one quick adjustment to play safety, and he's one of the best in the league. Kirby Joseph, one of the best in the league. And you realize, hey, it's an opportunity for him to highlight his skills. He can play free, doesn't have to be as physical in terms of, playing nickel is crazy. I think friends don't let friends play cornerback. They definitely shouldn't let them play nickel. That's tough, man. You got to be stout in the run and against the pass. That position's crazy. But that safety, you can roam, and it's just crazy that all his interceptions are like flying through the air, reading the football, reading his keys, and knowing where he's got to be. It's just been a pleasure to see his development. And you know what's been great too is that when he felt the sting of not being drafted in the first round, he was told, guys, that 80% likelihood he was going to be in the first round. So he sits there in Detroit and doesn't get his name called. And if you watch the podcast with Amon-Ra, dude was going to cry right then and there. Like, you could see just how devastated he was that he wasn't perceived as one of the best 32 players in the draft. That's what you needed. That's the luck that will be told in the story when the Lions win the Super Bowl, that they had Amon-Ra, who knew he was talented, but went in the 4th round. You know how fucking crazy that sounds, that Amon-Ra St. Brown's a 4th round receiver? But the question that we'll never know is, if he's drafted in the first round, does he become a diva? Does he act that way? Probably not. But I think that Amon-Ra getting drafted in the 4th round pissed him off to the point that he's just, crazily wanting to prove himself that he's great. Brian Branch, same thing, pissed off that he had to go in the 2nd round and wait, being one, I think, the last 2 guys that were in that green room, just sticking around and going, hey, it wasn't that wasn't the case. And I think that was actually perfect. And sometimes the universe ends up going that way, where the Lions have a bunch of guys that want to prove themselves. And to me, I think that's great. I think that if I had been given a radio show at 22, I probably would have quit the business and done something else. But the fact that I had to grind, I can relate to that grit mentality, in that I'm still getting backhanded compliments all along the way of the stuff I do. So you just, what it does is it makes you write the next article. It makes you record the next podcast. It makes you edit another video to post. So I love it. I'm thankful every day that the people that shut the door in my face and said podcasts were non-traditional media, I'm so thankful, because now every single media outlet in the world does it. And it's to the degree of all the players are doing it. It's great to see every time a player posts a new podcast. I'm literally, as I'm watching the Max Crosby podcast, as he's talking about Detroit, I'm beaming with pride that, look at this shit. Max Crosby's got his own podcast. He can't even cuss on it. It's getting edited left and right. But I'm like, this is how it was intended to be. The problem is, they're my competition. The players have figured out, shit, we can just get the message out. So it's another form of competition for me to try and break through. But the last couple episodes I posted, the Lone Wolves podcast is my fastest growing one. It's climbing the charts. I'm very happy. And I love the fact that Brian Branch was not drafted in the 1st round. I love the fact that this is a gritty football team. And I just think that's the case that's going to propel this football team to get into the biggest games possible, and maybe even win them.
Doc, we got some 2-member questions that I want to throw at you. First one, Steve says, Doc, should the Stafford to Minnesota rumors be taken with a grain of salt? Well, a lot of wizard.
Oh my God, this is hilarious. Oh my God, this is hilarious. Guys, they're not true. I mean, come on. Think about it. They got Sam Darnold.
Never know, Doc.
Listen, they're not true. Guys, please think about it from this perspective.
Never know.
Listen, I want to say this. Max Crosby literally had to go on his show and address a fake tweet. And when I saw the tweet, Christian sent it to me. I said, guys, you have to read the name of the person, and then you have to read the at part. It's so easy to not fall for that. I don't think I've fallen for it once. I mean, literally, they call themselves Harry Ballsack. Whatever these guys are putting out that is fake is so easy to detect, because here's the thing, okay? And here's the secret. All right, here's the secret. There's not that much originality in the media. All right, so if you type in Stafford trade rumors, look for ESPN, look for Pro Football Talk, look for SI. If 4 or 5 different sites are writing the same thing, then you believe it. Twitter is, again, and that's why maybe I've taken to it and not burnt out from it, is I clown around on there more than anybody. I treat it as, like, literally I said, hey guys, be careful of fake rumors. And then I put, I'm hearing Stafford to the Bears as I'm clowning around. I clown around on there. That was my thesis to start the Twitter page, was, can a clown just clown around on there and not get canceled? So to me, I do not believe the Stafford to Minnesota rumors in any capacity. Stafford is great for the Los Angeles Rams. I mean, maybe if they move on from the receiver Cooper Kupp and they tear it down, would they move Stafford somewhere else? Maybe, but I would think the Rams would be smart enough to take him out of the NFC and throw him in the AFC. But I don't believe Stafford trade rumors. He's playing at a great level, and just please take these rumors with a grain of salt, especially around the trade deadline. You realize, look, maybe your standard should be 20,000 followers and a blue check mark, but also to Google it first too. Twitter's is maybe where you get the information, but literally anybody can make a graphic, put sources, and put a thing up there. And it'll get traction. It's crazy. But sites like Dove Kleiman, NFL Rums, those are not legit sources. Go to SI, trusted source. Go to ESPN. Go to the biggest sites possible. Pro Football Talk. They will have the best situations that you can find this information. And look, this is the best time of year. Rumors drive engagement. I get it. But that one seems far-fetched, especially with how Darnold's been playing.
Last question. J-Rod says, who on our team is trade options, and who is the number one must-have, Doc?
Who on our team is a trade option? Meaning someone that the Lions could move on from?
Yeah, anyone that comes off immediately to your mind?
Oh, man, that's tough.
I see a lot of Hendon Hooker involved in trades, Doc.
Yeah, and I'm the one throwing that out there for fun. But no, I don't see the Lions. I don't see the Lions selling. I think they like their pieces. I think that, the Lions practice squad is one in which teams will look to in case of emergencies. But the Lions have a good team, man. The Lions, maybe James Houston, if he continues to showcase a little bit, maybe he's thrown in there into a trade moving forward. But I like the Lions collectively moving forward in this season, potentially a 12-13 win season. Who is the Lions must have? It's got to be a defensive lineman, right? It's got to be somebody that can come in and pressure the quarterback. Any of the names that you're hearing are great. The Lions must have, to me, I think the best option probably is Zadarius Smith in terms of fit and culture and fitting all the boxes. But if you're asking who's going to make my life better, I could treat all you guys to dinner multiple times. If the Lions get Max Crosby, you're going to talk about the biggest wave of positivity, the biggest wave of engagement of all time, because of the potential of Max Crosby, Aiden Hutchinson, ticket sales, a Detroit guy in Max Crosby coming home, dominating. I think the number one must-have is Max Crosby, because he's box office. He fits everything. He literally is a Detroit Lion playing for the Raiders. And I just would love that for Detroit. Who wouldn't? And so that's why I know everybody is realistic and understands that it's not probably likely to happen, but you should continue. Tag Max, tag the Raiders now. Let's just start with that. Tag the Raiders. Say you don't need them. You're going to lose with Max. You haven't won with them. Tag the Raiders too. Let's take it to the next level. Tag the Raiders and let them know you can get your weak ass franchise off the ground with picks. So move away from being the lowly Raiders, the last place Raiders, and restart your franchise with draft picks that the Lions would happily give you for Max Crosby. Just take 2 of them instead of the 3. Lighten up a little bit. Lighten up on your friends in the NFL and use some of those picks for good. But Hutch and Crosby, I mean, literally, it's a perfect marriage. And guys, Hutch and Crosby with more draft picks and more free agents, you're talking now you're talking sustained success, Chiefs level. Now we're talking 2 Super Bowls. Now we're talking let's party one year and dominate the next year. So it's so close, but it's so far because it's the Raiders have all the leverage in the world. So But guys, at the same token, I don't think it's a disaster to get somebody that's a little bit lesser of a name. This football team is 5-1, dealing with injuries, dealing with young, immature players, dealing with a bunch of stuff. Guys, in the past, this would be 0-6. We can sit back, enjoy winning football with chaos. That is crazy with the Detroit Lions. It makes you smile. It makes you drink and toast and have a good time. I was talking to you guys. Did the Pistons end up winning? Did they win the game?
Yeah, no, they definitely lost that game, Doc.
Oh, I have. Okay, I got to post that. I created it beforehand. I figured as much, 3-quarter team, but I'll figure out what happened in the end. I want to be a Pistons fan too, but they just kick you in the nuts every single time when you just want to support them. I think God put me on this show today so that I didn't have to watch them in the fourth quarter, because I would have probably I would have broke something game one. I want to cheer for the Pistons, but of course a fourth quarter collapse. But I got some
I'm with you, Doc.
Okay, guys,
you.
now, okay. And you guys are friends. So clearly when you see me post stuff, a lot of times my thesis was, if I think it, just throw it out there. Now, I understand it would take more to land Max Crosby. But let's say now, realistically, from my realistic brain and not me just throwing out something stupid to see what people are going to say at me. If the Raiders said 2 first-rounders, Jameson Williams, you get Max Crosby, do you do it?
No.
Okay, that's fair.
I don't. I'm not giving up Jameson.
I don't give a damn. You give me Max Crosby and Aiden Hutchinson, you're winning the Super Bowl eventually.
I
said it during the show. I think Jameson Williams is a player that you'd love to have, but I don't think he's a piece that this offense needs to win a Super Bowl. Max Crosby, he fits all the solutions that the Lions, or all the problems that the Lions have right now on the defensive line. It's nothing against Jameson.
Plus, I think wide receiver is the easiest. Wide receiver Speedy is the easiest one to replace. Ohio State's growing him on trees, so I'm not as attached to Jameson Williams, but I like seeing him in the Lions uniform too. I think it's right there on the tip of being the question to ask, but I do think that's the one that would split the realistic fan base. Would be like, man, you would get a lot of good debate if you include Jameson Williams in it. But we'll see what happens. I hope he grows, but I do think he's going to be successful in his career, no matter where he plays. It's just hopefully that he can learn from his mistakes and stop having to do podcasts and tell him to, hey, be a professional.
I think too with that trade, like at least for me, I think it's easy to say like, oh, do that. Max Crosby's going to make your defense look that good. But like, you're in season right now, getting rid of your wide receiver number 2, who before this week was leading your team in receiving yards and is one of the most explosive players in the NFL. Like, your offense will take a hit at the end of the day. So like, you're not going into the Super Bowl with the number 1 offense in the NFL. Like you were last year, but you'd also had the Josh Reynolds. Like, maybe Ben could still pull that off, but I still think J-Mo has an impact making this the number 1 offense in the NFL by a mile. Like, with the last 3 weeks, J-Mo had an impact in all of those games one way or another. I think you could, if that offer came around, I would say no, and I would go offer for Zadarius Smith, or I would go offer for, I would go offer for someone else, but I wouldn't give up J-Mo.
The last game, the Lions won an NFC division matchup on the road with J-Mo 1 catch -4 yards. Irrelevant. So
yeah, but he wasn't irrelevant though. That's to me. He wasn't irrelevant. He takes a lot away from the defense. His deep threat, his threat, the way he blocks. Like, he's still a presence on the football field, whether he's not getting the ball or not. Like, I think it was just the way that the defense played them that it opened up things in the short game over outside of the Jameson Williams long game. Like, they took that away, and they made us beat them a different way, and we did it. And then teams are going to try and take away the short game of the Amon-Ra St. Browns, and guess what? Now you have Jameson Williams over the top, and in that, like, it's like a 1-2 thing. I think it's easy to say that, but I just think like J-Mo does have a big effect on the offensive side.
It would change the nature of your offense. You would need to focus a little bit more on Jameer and David, but I think it would just be a little bit different because your defense would only give up 10 to 15 points. Your offense doesn't have to be that explosive. You just got to run the ball, control the clock, you win the football game 17-10 every single week. And that's championship.
But it changes because like your offense isn't as explosive anymore. Like it changes your offense completely. It could change, Doc. Like you already are having success on offense. It could change where you take one of your best players away on offense, and it could affect your season. Like you're in mid-season to be like, hey, let's just snatch out one of the best players. Like I think it's very unrealistic, to be honest.
I think that what I'm saying is that I think the Lions are good enough to scheme without Jameson Williams to win games. You have enough talent that in 1 year you could replace that deep threat option pretty fast.
But 1 year, we're talking about if you're making the trade, it's for this year.
Yeah, if you're making it this year,
wait. You might as well just wait and get someone extra. Without giving up JMO.
To me, if the Lions lost Jameson Williams to any reason for the rest of the year, I still think the offense would still average over 21 points and would not be as big a deal as opposed to the pass rush, in my opinion. I think that the offense is operating at such a high level with 6 guys that can do things that they can adapt and figure out ways to win games just with that offensive line in the run game. And then you could turn a lot of those maybe opportunities for Jameson Williams could go to ignite Jahmyr Gibbs. And you got Alvin Kamara, you got Jahmyr Gibbs in that mold. You just turn the offense into a little bit different mold in terms of having answers. So I don't think the book is closed if you don't have Jameson Williams. Yes, it's lovely. It does a lot of things. His blocking's great. It opens things up. It definitely makes life easier. But I think with an elite defense, to me, always until the Lions do it with a team like this, offensively built, defense wins championships. And I'd rather go into a game knowing that Max and Aiden Hutchinson down the road could crush an opposing quarterback and limit. Because remember, too, the Chiefs had the number 2, I think, the number 2 defense last year, and we're doing some things at a high level, not given enough credit. So to me, it's an interesting debate, but I disagree. I think that you could make do, but yeah, having Jameson Williams is definitely a bonus. Whew, it's definitely a bonus. Yeah, but I would not be opposed if they made the move.
Maybe he's a pretty big part of the offense. I don't know if it's a bonus, but
no, I agree with you. I'm gonna be honest. I agree with you. If you're talking 2 firsts and JMO, was that the thing? 2 firsts and JMO.
Crazy. That's crazy.
I mean, it's Max Crosby, like he said.
It's Max Crosby.
And I hate that because it's not fair to JMO because it's not even a realistic thing. But like we're talking about like one of the best players in the league. Like but anyway, it doesn't matter. Doc, we love you. Keep up the great work. Check out Doc's stuff. Sports Illustrated. And check out the podcast as well because he is absolutely crushing it. As always, it's brought to you guys by BetUS. Doc, we'll talk to you next week, my friend. Good luck over the weekend. Keep crushing.
Yes. Go Lions. They defeat the Titans. My missing here is because nobody's reading my stuff and giving me credibility, but that's okay. I will forge a path to keep people knowing who John Maakaron is. And part of it is showing up here every week and having fun with the chat. And I appreciate everybody out there. Thank you guys so much. I can't wait to talk to you guys next week.
Man, we love you, Doc. You're the man.
Appreciate you, Doc.
And we'll see you next Wednesday. There you go. The John Maakaron. And he's gone. That's it.
He's gone.
You know what else is gone, Hefe? That Pistons chance at opening night W.
Yeah.
What happened? Come on. I'm in pain watching. I was in pain watching that.
I'm checking the play-by-play because while John's giving out great answers, I'm looking at the play-by-play, just keeping up with what's going on. You know what I see on the play-by-play?
Benedict Matherin.
Tobias Harris, 23-foot jumper, miss. Tobias Harris, 25-foot jumper, miss. Tobias Harris, 25-foot jumper, miss. And here's, okay, and I didn't watch the game. So if you guys are, because I can't, obviously. But if you guys watch the game, I'm assuming he was open. Okay, so that's disappointing for a guy that's the veteran, the more efficient three-point shooter on the team. You got to be able to knock those down. And then on the other end, you have Benedict Matherin, who, I mean, he looked like the second coming of Kobe Bean Bryant. He
dropped Jaden Ivey off at the bus stop.
Yeah, he got buckets late. And they essentially closed the game, but the Pistons had every opportunity to win that game. I mean, they led for 3.5 quarters, and I think their largest lead of the game was like 12. They led by 12 at one point, and they still threw it away. So, and Ron Holland, I mean, you could see, you can see Ron Holland, by the way. He's a rookie. Like some of he was making mistakes too, which I actually am excited about Ron Holland's development. I'm not going to lie to you, but that's disappointing. I know Caleb's in the chat. Shout out you, Caleb. Absolutely brutal.
I was told
you just needed that. I mean, you just needed that start to the year.
Hey,
what were you told, Boone?
Someone told me that Tobias Harris adds 20 wins to your win total alone. Someone told me that, and you're talking, and someone on the show stuck up for the person telling me that. And now, so the same person on the show is saying, I don't like seeing these Tobias Harris misses. I'm just, hey, we're putting people on the stand.
Yeah. Well, who are you putting on the stand? I'm confused.
You and Sean. Sean came on the show and said that
Jeff.
Tobias Harris, his
Adds
impact,
20
his
wins.
spacing on the floor will impact Cade in such a way that it results in 20 points.
How'd that spacing work tonight? The man had all these wide open shots and couldn't knock one of them down to stay in the game.
I will say this: how they look tonight gives me more optimism.
You know what? All right, Jeff. You know what? Actually,
they do give me more optimism, and I will say this: I don't remember exactly what Sean said, but I know what I thought, and I know Caleb. I'm going to speak for you, brother. All right, I'm going to speak for you, brother, because we just had this the other night where, we just don't clip any of that, please, anyone. The other day when we were speaking about the Pistons. This is a different team. Okay. Tobias Harris does not add 20 wins by himself, but Tobias Harris, I love what Malik Beasley brought to the table tonight. I think that's a guy, speaking of shooting, Tim Hardaway finally broke the 3-point shooting slump that he was in the preseason. So they obviously have more shooting. Defensively, they looked feisty. I mean, Tyrese Halliburton had one of his worst games. Tyrese Halliburton shit the bed tonight, and they didn't win. That's what stings even more, to be honest with you guys. Like Tyrese Halliburton played like that, and you had Pascal Siakam do what he did. So I'm optimistic, cautiously optimistic. I think we're going to the game Saturday, so I'll get to see if you guys anyone's going in the chat. We'll see you there. But I want to see this team in person. And Caleb, we'll get a front row seat to this thing on Saturday.
I will say this. So first of all, the Tobias Harris stuff. This is how I look at the Pistons, guys. Because when I get told, hey, this player will make this impact and do this, when you bring in Tobias Harris, who was third, fourth option for the Sixers and couldn't win there and do anything there, you bring in a Tim Hardaway Jr., who ended up not being a piece to the Dallas Mavericks playoff run. When you bring in these guys, I think they're good culture guys. What I don't like to be told, and I know it's after game one, so I'm not going to overreact, but this is my mindset when it comes to these things, especially with the Pistons over the last few years. What I don't like to be told a little bit is, hey, this guy's going to make a statistical impact, and they're going to be a great player for the next few years on this. No, what I want to look for, especially tonight, and what I'll say tonight when I watch the first half and the first 3 quarters before our show started, this JB Bickerstaff team has a way better culture, and they play way harder, and the rotations are 100 times better. Everything about a JB Bickerstaff coach team is way better, 100 times better than what we've seen with Monty and Van Gundy and all these other coaches that have been through here and had these different regimes. And I can see that from night one. Like defensively, them locking up instantly and having that mindset, love that. Now, the reason they lost, don't knock down shots, okay, I can live with that. But I'm not going to sit here and break down, Tobias Harris is going to get you 25 plus wins this year, or Tim Hardaway is really going to space the floor and he's going to make sure you get to 45 wins and you make the playoffs. Come on. And I said it from all along, this season, it's about establishing JB Bickerstaff's culture. And it's, hey, I want to see these guys play hard on defense. I want to see them offensively looking at more of a rhythm. I want to see the culture of the team. Cade Cunningham running things more like. That's what I want to see. The rotations are actually legit and not just, hey, let me click shuffle like Klotz's power rankings and throw guys out on the floor. Apologize. That was a bad shot. Only thing I could think of on the top of my head. Do you guys see what I'm saying, Jeff? Like, I would think you would understand what I'm saying with that. Like, to me, it's like these players you're bringing in are pieces that are like short term where it's like, yeah, they'll help us build the culture. But I that's what I think needs to be worried about on this season. And like people being like, 45 wins, playoffs, this, that. Like, no. That's why that's the one thing I hate about this stuff. And this is why in 30 games, we're going to have these conversations, and I'm going to have to go clip 100 different people, and I'm going to have to pull receipts for 100 different people because, like, why are we doing that? Why don't when we all mature and say, hey, maybe we're not going to go win 50 games or be in the playoffs?
Hold on. Who's saying all this?
I've seen people say playoffs. There's a lot of people
50
saying playoffs.
games?
Not 50. That's an exaggeration.
45 even.
I've seen 40. I've seen 40 this week. I've seen 38. I've seen 39. I've seen 42 and 42. I've seen all of this. It's like, hey, so let's take a step back. Let's stop that. Let's just let's set a goal for the year here about this, guys. What we haven't seen in Detroit for the last 16 years with Tom Gores as the owner, we haven't seen a culture. We haven't seen guys play hard like the going to work Pistons or the bad boy Pistons. We haven't seen that in 20 years. So let's stop having the conversation of trying to predict them going to the playoffs and to win 40 or 37. And let's just say, hey, why don't we see improvement with the culture in a step forward with Cade and these players? That's what I'm looking for. And you know what? Quite frankly, guys, I'll tell you something. I saw that tonight. I did. I felt like these guys played a lot harder than they did in one game last year with Monty Williams.
Honestly, that was probably my biggest takeaway was the defensive effort as far as the team goes, and the rotations definitely boomed that to a point last year. It was just getting pitiful. But one thing they need to figure out is how to close games because they do constantly play well for 3 quarters and then blow it in the fourth. Cade Cunningham isn't going to be able to be your only option in the fourth quarter. When these guys get open and when they have these open shots in the from the 3-point line, these guys are going to have to step up and make big shots because Cade can't do it all. He's going to be getting doubled in the fourth quarter and whatnot. So someone's going to have to step up in crunch time, no pun intended.
You noticed it immediately. I think a good you see, to your point, the coaching night and day. And I love Monty. I think it got to a point where Monty, I didn't love him in Detroit, but I loved him before Detroit because that shit was embarrassing, especially last year. I had a very different opinion of Monty until he coached the Pistons. And then you could see, okay, this guy's just here for the bag. Like the complete malfeasance of coaching. That's what he displayed while he was in Detroit. So now seeing JB, it's like a fresh breath of fresh air to see like a team that actually gives a shit and a team that plays hard because they do have athletes. And I thought tonight, to your point, Mike, they just have to find a way to close games, man. That's like the biggest thing. And I know that's easier said than done, but I mean, it's the Pacers and you had Tyrese Halliburton playing that way and you're at home, you have to close that game. And now you got the Celtics on Saturday, another big, like the Celtics just dismantled the Knicks yesterday. Like you're once you get these opportunities like you did tonight, you just got to get them. You just have to get them. But yeah, credit to, JB, love that debut. They played hard for him.
It looked like they were playing extremely hard. Like from the jump, it was like, okay, there is a noticeable difference from last year to this year. It's about putting it all together though, and figuring this thing out. But like, again, we're like closing out games, but like, guys, the veteran players that we acquired are the ones that couldn't close the game out tonight. Like those are the players that you need to hit the shots. You signed Tobias to be your second option, essentially. Like that was at least what I was told, and he couldn't make the big shots down the stretch.
Yeah, and that's something I think with time he'll be better. I think Tobias
13 years in.
Wait, what? What?
Well, he's had a lot to get better, man. He's like
no, I'm saying he's a new team. Like I'm not going to freak out and say like he can't shoot the ball. Like I've a decade of he can shoot the ball. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not.
Is this true?
What?
I couldn't watch the game. We were live, so I don't know. I'm gonna rewatch it tomorrow, and I can tell you all that stuff. Tech for having 6 players on the court. I can't comment on that.
Terrible. Another thing I would point out too is Miles Turner can't be getting 20 points on Jalen Duren. I mean, there's like certain points in times you can look at Jalen Duren's game, and he does so many good things. His energy on the boards and giving goes to the basket and whatnot, but his defense is struggling sometimes. And when you face a guy like Miles Turner, who's not particularly that great down low with moves and whatnot, for him to put up 20 points, it's like you said, when you're holding Halliburton to, under 15, under 20, whatever it was, and then you got Miles Turner going crazy like that, it's not something you want.
No, Miles. God. Yeah. I don't know.
Don't let him get hot. Don't let him get hot.
I did say, quote, don't let him get one. I did say that the other day, and I can quote, don't let him get the first one. They did not indeed get the first one. They're 0-1 now. So.
I'm going to the game. We're going. Hopefully, all the boys can go. I'm going Saturday though, so I want to see Boston. So I see this Pistons team, and that it's like the biggest challenge because the Celtics looked angry. Like Jason Tatum, I almost want to put a bet on Jason Tatum to win MVP. I think Luka does, but like you could tell he came back this year like instantly with like I'm ready to go. And it just felt like, I know it's game one, but you could tell when a guy, especially some of the greats, like you could tell when they're like, this is my season. Like that's what it felt like with Jason Tatum. And they'll be in town Saturday.
Hey, I want to come, Boone. Can I come?
I literally, I was on the phone with Jeff. I said, let's do a crunch time outing. The boys and Caleb's in the chat. I don't know if he's available to go, but
let's do it.
Yeah, the boys
are a little crunch time. It's like a little
we're
business.
We're all going to see the Celtics, and we're gonna get.
It's like you know what? It's like a mandatory, like a business trip. Like it's like, hey, we have a business meeting at 7 o'clock.
We gotta get it out the way now before they're 20 and 50.
Hey,
so if anyone in the chat, if you're watching, you want to go to the Pistons game Saturday,
you're influencing them too much.
Hey, Jeff, we went to the third game last year when they played the Bulls and they won.
I thought that was the first home game. Yeah,
when I'm in the building, things change.
Okay? Do you think you can get us in the press box?
Never for the better.
I'm gonna be like Bron. We'll go up to Cade and be like, I'm just gonna start talking to Cade like this,
like a fake book with a book that's open on page 52 that you don't.
Cade, talk to me real quick. You think you can take these guys?
Ron's burnt toast, Hefe. He's burnt toast.
All right, get out. Okay. Yeah, this is where we close the show. It's perfect. Thank you, Klotz, for that.
Can I say one last thing before the show's over?
Yeah, go on.
Say it, Boone.
Hey, memberships are back, and there's a lot of people in here without members. Go get a membership. Couple bucks a month. You can use all the emojis, all of that. Support the fellas, man.
There you go. Appreciate all the support, man. Seriously, the love has been awesome. It's just awesome. It's great to be back. You guys are the fucking best. Mike Reed, Paul, Michael Peterson became a member as well. Sheen Coffin, Coach Walk, Mike Reed, Andrew Jones, all you guys, man. Steve Lehman, Papa D's, all the new members. We love you. Appreciate you so much. And to J Rod as well. He was a member. Yep. Love you guys. We'll catch you tomorrow. We have a special guest tomorrow. We may or may not have a Titans beat writer tomorrow. So let's run this back. Let's see the confidence level. The Vikings got, hey, it was fun last week. Let's get another one. Let's see how this one goes. Be there tomorrow. It'll be a lot of fun. Until then, we'll catch you guys. Get your merchandise. It's available now on YouTube. You can see the shop. And for all the merchandise, check out the actual shop, not the YouTube shop. There's way more there displayed. Until tomorrow, we'll catch you guys. See you.
Peace.